Hello, hello. Good evening. Welcome back. Well, thank you for the pet. You remind me. You remind me that I forgot to start the thing for the pets to work. One day, I will remember all of the fucking stuff I need to have running when I start a stream. It is not today. I did remember yesterday. I did not remember today. It takes like 500 fucking years to start up. You will get your pets with a slight delay. Many delays. Oh my god. Come on. Come on. Where is it? There it is. Two of them. No delay when you did it. But anyway, hi, good evening. Also, Flo, thank you so much for the resub. Thank you for the pet. Yeah, okay, now they're working. Now they're working. This is what we like. We also like our game to have sound. Okay, here we go. Perfect. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to even more visual novels. We did a visual novel yesterday. We're doing a visual novel today. This is fine. This one has at least a little bit of voice acting, so I don't have to read out everything myself, though. Oh, man. Thank you for the pats, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. It's Sunday again. The weekend went over so quickly. Went over so fast. Went by. Whatever. You know what? I give it. I slept for a very long time today. Visual novel tomorrow. Tomorrow might not be a stream day, but much more likely than you think. No, tomorrow is not a stream day. Tomorrow is not a stream day, but I am thinking of maybe doing like doing a stream tomorrow, because I am unsure whether I can do Wednesday like I usually would. Maybe. I do have time. I would have time tomorrow for sure. So maybe we could do even more Raging Loop tomorrow. Ha 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 ha. But that would mean I had to read for 3 days in a row. I don't think my throat would like that. Every day is visual novel. That's true. That's true. I still have a bunch I want to play for myself. Or finish for myself that I am for some reason not getting around to finally finishing. The reason being that the one of the visual novels I'm playing for myself is not very... I don't want to say it's not very good, but it has a very episodic... I don't think that's a word. Like writing style. It's like, okay, it's not even the full on, okay, here's one chapter and something happens and a chapter's over and then something new happens in the next chapter. It is a word, okay. It's just, you have like what feels like 10 minutes of content. And then you get to a new chapter and it feels very disconnected all the time. And then there's like 20 chapters for a route. It's like, please, just kiss and get it over with. Because it's a romance visual novel. I'm not... It's the third route I'm on, and I can't do it. I have another 3 routes and like still to do. And I started playing this game last year. No, I started playing this game in 2021 actually, and I'm still not done. I'm still not fucking done. It's not even that long. It's like 40 hours maybe. It's not that long. You're very bad at finishing mans. Yeah, I either finish them in one go or never. The ones I play for myself. The ones we do on stream, at least, those are okay. Because even if sometimes we have like one stream day where it feels like nothing much has happened, that's okay. We just try again next time and then stuff happens. So it's all good, but... I started it sometime at the end of 2021. And then I thought I was done with it, started another one. That took me pretty much the entirety of 2022 to read because I just didn't do it actively. And now I'm back to the other one before I start one more. But now, we're gonna finish. We're not gonna finish, it's not over yet. We're gonna focus on this one. And we're gonna focus on trying to get back into the village. Because last time, we tried to get back to the village, like, okay, we're retaining all of our memories, we're just gonna get back in. No, we're not getting back in. Clearly, no one wants to let us back in. There's so much stuff we're doing. That doesn't sound very sincere, my guy. Oh, thank you for the vitality.
山脇さん、ご心配なさらず。今ちょうど野里様が休みずに来とられますからね。今呼びますから。
Reminds me of Felicity. Oh, I can see it. I can see it.
下まで送りましょ
う。お願いしようか。
Now this was unusual. She hated outsiders, but she couldn't say no to Hashimoto-san's presence.
上松さんですっけ。病院とか行かなくて大丈夫です。
She hit her head. It's not like she
お医者様がいらっしゃる。
hurt herself that badly. Imagine going to the hospital because you hit your head once. Ow, 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 ow.
そうなら
It's a little much, isn't it?
手を貸すわ。乗れる？お手数をおかけします。妻子くん悪いけど後ろね。
That's fine. It was full of equipment though.
う。歩きますよ。
やめなさい。
I've been talking nonchalantly, but her response was a stern one. Well, it was true I could have caused some serious trouble if I arrived completely unknown. I knew this from my experience arriving via Saranaga. Also, I wasn't supposed to be familiar with the area. I had to avoid looking suspicious. I think it's very interesting that he just accepts the fact that like, he can remember stuff from a different timeline, I guess.
いえいえ、気になさらずに。
Even though his entire thing is like, oh no, there's nothing supernatural going on. Everything has to be, everything is going to be explained by very basic human stuff, like stuff we could do without ghosts or whatever magical beings existing. But yet he's like, yeah, I have memories of my death. All right.
いえ、その上松理香子と申します。
Okay, good for you.
回るに末で上松すももの花で理香子です。
Okay.
そういえば、まともに自己紹介もしてませんでしたね。夫妻子春明です。厨房の房に石器の石、陽明学の陽明で春明と読みます。
That's neo-confu... Okay.
夫妻子春明様。
I felt like she didn't get it at all. Anyway, thanks to that, I became an inhabitant of the back seat and a fellow passenger alongside Rikaku and Matsu. For a brief moment anyway, we didn't speak much. The only noteworthy thing was the strange smell of dried aromatic wood she'd brought along. Besides that, I was just struggling to keep my seat as we jostled down the bumpy road. Leaving a turn on the unpaved road, we arrived and drove through Yasumizu. We passed the front of the Nosato mansion, then a construction site, Tarzan's house, probably, until finally we arrived at the plaza. By the time we got there, Uematsu-san seemed to be in perfect health and apologized profusely for the trouble she'd caused. It would be best if she took care of the wound on her head. Mamiya-san and I went alongside her and took her to the house she was living in. It was the same place where she'd lost her mind and the rest of us had barricaded her in.
じゃあ、念のため、野里様を待ちます。お大事にね。はい。夫妻子様も。
You will make it up to me. I would appreciate it if you didn't try to kill me next time.
いやいや、お気になさらず。
That would be great.
Bleh.
Raging whoop, like aging loop. I'm aging 500 years every time someone does something stupid in here. Completely forgotten about Uematsu-san's extra.
どこの子?
Also, good evening.
昨日会いませんでしたか。おととい休みずに迷い込んだ子です。
Oh, I hate that she speaks so slowly.
あら、上富士吉から？それじゃあ今日連れて行きますよ。いえ、 その、
あ、とりあえず他の人に事情を聞きません？リカ子さんは休まないと。
What do you mean it's already evening? Listen, I went to bed at an acceptable time. Like 1 a.m. or something, shortly after stream. I did not stay awake for that much longer because I was like, oh, I should catch up on sleep. And then I slept until 12:30, like without a pause or break or whatever. I just slept. So it is already evening. I feel like I didn't do anything today.
確かね。
As usual. That's
それじゃ
usually the
上
case on
松さん
Sunday though.
失礼するわ。この子はいいのかしら。
Hi, Barry. Good evening.
メイコ。
Meiko, because she says ba all the time. When Matsu-san called to Meiko and brought her inside, a stronger smell began wafting from the building. Maybe they were burning incense.
かわいいわよね。
It's slow
彼
speaking
女。
characters in video games. Me too. I don't mind if I play a game for myself because I do not care. I will interrupt them as soon as I have finished reading a text box. But I don't do that on stream.
しかも、あの風
Because
貌
I
に
try to
あ
be
の
a
装
little
束
respectful at least to all the hard work they put into voicing the characters and also when I don't have to read out stuff myself.
装束？
気づかない？形は巫女服っぽいけど、墨染めなとこは仏門っぽい。
Okay.
明らかに宗教的な意味がある格好。こんな偏僻な場所に独自の信仰があるなんて。胸が騒ぐ。
Isn't it more likely that a very remote region would have its own religion because it's so far away from everything else?
お仕事熱心なのは結構ですが、少々よその事情に立ち入りすぎじゃありませんかね。
Hi. Man, everyone seemed to just appear out of nowhere this time.
あら、野里さん、すみません、失礼しました。上松さんの手当てで？
Mamiya-san gave a confident journalistic smile and spoke to Kiyonosuke Nosatoshi.
ええ、分かっているなら道を譲ってもらえると幸いですがね。
God, you're still so annoying.
こちら見慣れん方ですな。
ああ、樋口さんの紹介で今度こちらに住むことになった久石春明さんですって。
え？
どうも、お世話になります。
藤吉村のではない。
Nope.
ね。
はい。いろいろありまして、東京から来ました。
樋口はよくわからんことを。しかしまあ、気の毒なことだ。では、
Maybe he will like us more this time though because we came in through a normal way. Sympathy, huh? As condescending as always. After parting ways with him, we returned to the plaza. Hashimoto-san was taking photos of a small flower nearby. I could imagine that someone told him not to take photos of the houses. We were the only ones here and I couldn't hear anything but the wind. It was strangely quiet.
相変わらず。
Imagine going somewhere normally. You're talking to someone who hasn't left their apartment in the last 3 days. Ever since I came back here, I have not left the apartment. She fell silent before finishing her derisive comment. Wise move. Wouldn't be good to finish that comment by comparing the place to a ghost town.
じゃあ行こうか。食堂なんだよね。話が言ってるのって。
You use the secret lizard people tunnels. Oh man, I've been trying to get access to the secret lizard people tunnels for ages.
ええ。
Despite having next to nothing to do with me, Mamiya-san was helping me out a lot. Then again, she was heading there too. I wonder if she's going to die this time around as well. You need a voucher? Damn it.
それに宝生さん。
All you had to do was ask.
どうも。
どうもどうも。
Took a lot to keep myself from saying hello, hello, hello. More.
樋口さんからこちらを
Hello, hello, hello. どうもどうも。どうもどうもどうも。Suzy Higuchi had pushed me into working at the dining hall here. Not the watering hall, but dining hall. He strongly emphasized that it wasn't under his control. That was why it had been decided I'd meet Kaori-san. She had an overall composed, slightly haggard face, and I couldn't see a hint of the demon from before. Apparently, if it was for the children, some parents could become both demons and angels. I I kind of felt like that applied to the entire history of mankind, for better or for worse.
まあきちんとされてるのね、お若いのに。
いえ、落ちこぼれですから。
まあそんな。でも本当にいいのかしら、こんな。
いいんです。いろんな人に言われますけど、いいところじゃないですか。
そう。でも聞いたかわからないけれど、食堂といっても炊き出し係みたいなものだから。その言いにくいのだけど。
When you and Bolt move a toy, there's a hole in the ground. This is
食事はもちろん出せるんだけど。
I see.
構わないですよ。お金がなくても素朴に
I'm not sure I can fit into those tunnels.
まあ。
じじいかよ。
Alright. Honestly, I was not sad when he was dead because his voice is so grating. Suddenly, Yoshitsugu Oribe-kun walked through the door, displaying the same recklessness that would probably gotten him killed last time.
吉次、あんた学校はどうしたの？
うるせえ！行かねえっつってんだろ。おい死に損ない野郎、死に損なってここに来たそうじゃねえか。ダッセーな。
吉次、あんたなんてことを。
Oh, word spread fast around here. They called and told Cody-san about it, then she told it to several other people, and it probably leaked.
本当だ、僕だっせー。は？頭おかしいのかてめえ。否定できねえ僕ばっか。おいババア、こんなやつ雇んじゃねえよ。店めちゃくちゃになんぞ。
学校も行かない、手伝いもしないあんたが言うの。
うっせえ。おいバカてめえ茶髪野郎、おめえ本当に死にに来たのかよ。詐欺とかじゃねえんだろうな。
I twitched.
ははは、そんなわけないじゃないか。ははは。
おいババア、こいつ超怪しいぞ。
私はババアなんて名前じゃありません。
あはは、はははは。
外野から悪いんだけど、久石君悪ふざけはほどほどにね。
ははははは。すみません。だけどまあ、
The fake love.
皆さんとは長い付き合いになりそうですから。
I've never heard someone laugh as fake as this.
吉次君っていうのかい？じゃあ一つ賭けをしようか。
Oh, they all shitheads they are!
あ？なんだよ腰抜けがよ。
ね。
I looked into my large bag and took something out, specifically a new pocket knife.
これで僕の小指を切り落としてごらん。
Everyone instantly fell silent. I ignored them and continued.
ほら、手をこうしておくからさ。
Oh,
ナイフは、はい、そこに置くね。
bruh.
何言ってんだてめえ。
お近づきの印に指詰めさせてあげるって言ってるの。
おかしいだろっつうの。つうか、そんなん普通自分でやるもんだろ。そうだ、自分でできねえからそうやってやらせようってんだ。やっぱ腰抜けじゃねえか。あ？
自分でしてもいいんだけど、これは賭けであり、度胸試しだからね。僕を腰抜け呼ばわりした君も。
Very normal things to tell someone to do.
君がナイフを振り下ろせれば君の勝ち。逃げなければ僕の勝ち。つまり、見事君が僕の指を切り落とせれば二人とも勝ちだ。
I'm not sure that's how you become friends with
友達に
someone.
なろうじゃないか。ね、吉次君。
I smiled and pointed at the knife on the table with my finger.
何バカなこと言ってんだ。頭おかしいんじゃねえの。
さっきからそれしか言ってないね。うん。だから、おかしいんだよ。頭が。君は、まともな人間の方がいいの？そんな格好で、お母さんに当たり散らしておいて。僕はおかしな人間の方が好きさ。見せてくれよ。君のイカれてるところを。はははは。
Man, this was just too much fun. Yoshitsugu-kun looked right about ready to shit his pants. But it was time to back off.
なんちゃって。
What a shame, huh, Yoshitsugu-kun?
嘘。そんな痛いことやんないよ。まあ、急には無理でも、じきに仲良くしてくれたら嬉しいな。よろしく。
てめえ、気使ったつもりか。
Jokes aside, he was actually pretty sharp. He and his brother were nothing alike, but it wouldn't have been surprising if he also had a talent for seeing through people. He had Higuchi blood in his veins after all. Perhaps it was genetic. He left without saying another word. Cody-san didn't even tell him to go to school.
すみません。変なことをしちゃいました。
いえ、うちのバカ息子がとんだ失礼を。でもちょっとびっくりしたわ。胆力が終わりなのね。
そんなことないですよ。賭けを放棄したので僕の負け。多分追い詰めたら彼はやってみせた
Despite
でしょう
how he
から
looks, I
ね。
don't think he's someone to actually go and attack. So you have to go now. Okay. Thank you for coming by. After all, he was the type who'd pick a fight with someone inhuman and die. Oh, great reading. Hold on. Okay. Thank you. Brave.
でも、お母さんの前で血を見せるのはためらったんでしょう。きっと、根はいい子なんですよね、彼は。
My words almost made Cody-san smile, but
いえ、ほんとお恥ずかしい限りで。体ばかり大きくなって、私などはもう口出しくらいしかできなくて。
she decided to keep up the act of the strict mother. Puberty and rebellion sure seemed complicated.
久石くん、ちょっと。
I did just that.
あなた、もしかしてあっち系の人間？追っ手がかかって逃げてきたとか、捕まったらけじめとか？
いや、違いますよ。指爪は適当に言っただけです。その手の
One
事
of
情で
those people?
皆さんに迷惑かけることはない
What
です。
type of people?
ならいいけど。
She was actually suspicious. I had to act out about a normal person. This wasn't the time to mess around.
とにかく雑用でも何でもしますので、使ってやっていただければ
How
と。
do you act like a normal person? Suggest someone to cut off your pinky.
ああ、ええ、それは構いませんよ。どのみち上の方の決めたことなのだし。
Maybe try again.
ただ、住むところをどうしようかしらね。
Kinda expected them to be already decided on that.
じゃあ、挨拶がてら行ってきますよ。
You played enough Yakuza to know where this is going.
基本的に土地のお話は山脇さんのところかしら。
さっきのおばあさんよ。車で通った一軒家に住んでらっしゃるわ。
I'd rather not have my pinky cut off. Oh yeah, when Takumi-san gave me the key to my dorm room, he told me he got it from the old lady. Was she like the landlord of Yasumi-san?
その辺にいらっしゃらないかな。植松さんのお見舞いとかで。
あら、植松さんどうかされたの？
さっき転んで頭を打って。
I left that talk to Mamiya-san and opened the door so I could see the plaza. By the time I realized that someone else was on the other side, it was fully open. Seeing that person's face almost made me say her name in surprise. Chimi Serizawa. I couldn't save her. I couldn't fulfill my promise. But we'd met again thanks to the strange looping phenomenon. Why there was something to feel thankful about was another matter.
はじめまして。
I kept my surge of emotions under control and gave an amicable smile. Amicable? But just as she made that simple sound, a lone tear ran down her cheek.
あら、目にゴミ入った？
Her voice was calm, but the first tear made way for many more, and they were soon streaming from both eyes.
なんだこれ。かおりさん、ごめんなさい。ちょっと手拭いかなんかもらえます？
Her reaction didn't seem to be anything more than confusion at her body going out of control.
まあ、どうしたの？はい、手ぬ。
いや、わかんなくて。なんか、催涙ガスとか煮込んだりしてないですよね。
記者の方にお出しする獅子慣れが傷んでたのかしら。
いやいや、言ってみただけです。なんか、こう、なんだろうな、更年期かな。
You in your 20s.
まあ、ちえみちゃんはまだ大丈夫よ。
すみません、変なとこお見せしちゃって。
She wiped her tears. Her eyes didn't look good, but her voice was cheerful and carefree, just like in my memory.
今日、急に休みずに住むことになった方ですよね、お兄さん。
That was a word you used on strangers. My head she cried.
ええ。そんなに恐ろしい外見かな。
いや普通にシュッとされてますし、全然。これはなんだろう、謎現象です。あ、私、芹沢千恵美って言います。学生で里帰り中です。第一印象最悪かもですが、よろしくお願いします。
She bowed to me. She really didn't know who I was. Wouldn't it have been weirder if she for some reason would remember who you are? Due to the looping phenomenon, dying had sent me back to the point when I was wandering around on my bike. It was something that actually happened and I had to accept it, but it was also completely unreasonable. I didn't have any good way to reasonably explain it. Was the looping centered around me? Was I really the only one who had memories of last time? It wouldn't be strange for there to be someone else. My memories were fragmented right now, and I often remembered things only when it counted. It could be that the others had forgotten almost everything, but still had certain fragments of their memories and feelings. I had to stop thinking about this. I couldn't have asked her to console me about the tragic end that hadn't even happened yet. I've been barking up the wrong tree. If everything worked out, I hoped I could get close to her again. Love that depended on death to span the suspension bridge effect was better off staying in the realm of fiction where it belonged. We exchanged a few words, but I didn't have much time. I had to focus on getting a place to stay. Anyway, just like I said, I first went to Uematsu-san's house. Obviously, it didn't seem like there were many people inside. I hesitated for a moment, but ended up knocking. That was Mako's voice. Could she even understand me?
さっき、夫妻子と名乗ったものですけど。いや、夫妻子春秋。ここにおばあちゃん来てる？
来てない。
Oh, so it was off the mark.
わかった。それじゃね。
あんなに？お兄ちゃん。ふさあきさん？ふさゆきさん。
Wrong.
ちょっとお待ちください。
Oh, Uematsu-san. She told me to wait, so I did. Soon enough, the door opened up.
お待たせしました。それで何だったでしょう。
山脇さんに会いたいんですが、さっきあんな様子だったし、こっちに来られてないかと思いまして。
まだお見えになりません。
みたいですね。それじゃ。
いや、山脇様に何のご用だったか。
ああ、いや、一応こっちに住むことになったんですが、住む場所がまだ決まってないんですよね。
住まわれる？
うん。
ええ、それで相談を。
What does she mean by this?
でも、宿なしは。
By the weird sound?
ええ。
夕霧立てば、宴の支度、と申しまして。
That made me flinch. Did this show on my face?
藤吉のものは、霧を不吉なものと習います。霧が立つ日は、
Interesting that she tells us about this, regardless of how we come here.
早寝して過ごすのが、
She told us that one other time, but it was very confusing. Cleanse shelter
それ
dream.
は面白い風習ですね。
But she's immediately like, oh, you're staying here? Okay, hold on. Let me tell you about something. That was what I would have thought if I didn't know about the tragedy.
差し出がましいかもしれませんが。
Oh!
空き家なら一軒。
え?
An empty house? She told Meiko to entertain herself and took her key from her house. Instead of telling me more about it, she insisted on going outside despite my polite protests. I had no choice but to follow after. We passed the plaza and went down the hill. She tripped 2 times.
痛い。
でしょうね。
転ぶのも、頭を打つのも、常ですので。
Is that something you get used to?
ダメですよ。そんなんで草っ腹を歩いちゃう。
これも、植松の仕事ですから。
そうなんですか？
雲は、ネヤのはしため。
The what? That was a new term. Bedroom woman servants. Women who serve you in a bedroom? That sure sounded sexy. Bruh. And despite I was one of the guardians of Great Lord Sinai, it reminded me, Chimi had told me that the Uematsu were the family of the spider.
黄泉の木は、皿長より湧き、まずは人の正気を蝕むと言います。そこから、かつて植松家は、野蛮として、村の夢見を守る、役目を担ったのです。
Okay. Or they're like night watchmen or something. It wouldn't have been weird for a police-like force to still retain power in this day and age.
でも夜だと 1000% 転ぶから、昼に見回りをされている。
Yeah. Was she alright?
ちなみに、今長者と呼ばれている人たちみんな、そういう言われみたいなものを持ってるってことですか？
はい。よく知っておいでですね。
上富士吉を通ってきたんですが、樋口さんはかなり力のある方に見えました。
樋口家は猿、
Monkeys.
水場の日盛り。
There was a term again, watering hole.
火を使っちゃならなかったのをこっそり使ってたとかなんとか。
ええ。水場と偽って火を焚くことを人に教えたのが猿であったと伝わっております。
And they used this to gain influence as the source of everyone's food.
さっきいたのは野里さんでしたっけ？あの人も長者だとか。
野里家はカラス、軒のはみ手。
ピンときません。
屍を読み人かどうか
Oh,
見分する役。
they performed autopsies. That didn't seem very important.
実際はクス氏、武士は渦とも呼ばれ。
I think performing autopsies would be a quite important thing to do, you know? But okay.
野里は薬作ってた家だかんね。
渦だ渦獅子滝に鳥かご
That's
が
why
入っ
he
てい
know.
る
Oh. Oh yeah, that was true. Well, an autopsy was a medical procedure, and if they could use poisonous plants on top of it, they could have easily garnered lots of respect.
なるほど。もう一つはなんて言いましたっけ？
身車。
Right, I hadn't met a single person linked to that one.
蛇は蔵の見張り。植松は見張りの家ではありませんから。
食料版ですか？
いえ、蔵というのは櫓のことです。
じゃあ軍事的な。
いえ、かつて櫓を組んで星を見て
This is so
暦を作り
so
天候を読み工作の目当てをつけたと伝え、その職能は畏敬を受け、やがて親内様の神官としての役目も。
なるほど。
We're out TV weather ladies now, but back in the day, astronomy and meteorology were linked to divination, leading many to consider them special powers that let them predict the future and bring good things in general. Farming was the building block of civilization. Having it was a matter of life and death, so it was only natural for those who offered guidance in that field to become leaders.
教えていただいてありがとうございます。深い歴史のある土地なんですね。愛着が湧きそうです。
そうですか。初めて言われました。
本当ですか？普通に興味深いですが。
富士吉の生まれでない人にお話ししたことがありませんので。
Alright, she refused to go into detail last time. Infiltrating the village really was a good idea, huh?
そうこうしているうちに
Meteorology.
あれです。
Should have been a study of meteors. It's okay.
確かにそうこうしていましたね。
別に変なことはしてません。
Her speech was still odd, and what the hell was up with her imagination? She could send my verbal curveballs to another dimension. Anyway, there was a wooden house. It was much like the ones near the plaza, except a bit more aged. It looked relatively stable, though.
実のところ
Stable? That's for
富士
horses.
吉の多くは樋口、野里、植松の私有地なのです。
So what, this is private property of you?
富士吉村の所有になっているのは 身車のかつての私有地であり、代々村長を務める身車家に属するものとみなされています。
That was new to me.
つまり、ここもリカ子さんの土地なんですね。
Why are you like this?
あ、すみません。慣れ慣れしく呼んでしまいました。
いえ、いいのですが、土地はその通りでして、ここの方は少し前までお元気に。
それじゃあ、今はお亡くなりに？
はい、大往生でした。
Was it? That sounded like a real blessing here in Yasumizu.
気にされますか？一応中はきれいにしてあるのですが。
I'd have been lying if I said I wasn't bothered, but I chose to take a look. She hadn't been kidding. The inside was shabby and the wood was aged, but the floor was clean and I couldn't see much dust. The tatami was new too, though that meant it had to be changed. But at least there wasn't some human-shaped mark on the floor. There was no furniture, but I could easily get a futon or something.
風呂は？
ガスは外してると思います。
そりゃ大変だ。霧が出たらまずい。
みそぎですか？そこの水桶に井戸水を汲んで。
そんなもんでいいんですか？
はい。かつては弱みの習慣は藤吉にはなかったと聞いています。
あ、そうか。火は水場でしか使っちゃダメだから。
その通りです。
That made sense. Anyway, I was now ready.
本当に使ってもいいんですか？
はい。日頃掃除をしてきた。
え、あなたが手ずから？
汚れを引き取るのも植松家の役目なのです。それに手を動かしていた方が気が紛れることもあります。
何かお辛いことが？
She fell silent.
すみません。
Oh my god. It's gonna take us like half an hour to get through one conversation with her.
何かあったわけじゃなく、何か起きるのが怖くて。
She looked at the mountain beyond the valley. No, it was the valley itself and the Sadanaga Rapids at the bottom.
さっきの話、蔵の見張りの身車家は、例えば天気のこととかを今でも予想してたりするんです。
Part of me thought I might be prying too deeply.
春と秋のお祭りで五穀豊穣を願い、舞を奉納し、祝詞を読んでおります。それは昔の行いを真似ていると聞きます。
It's like if I started talking like this
大きな
whenever I
日
try
和
to
の
say
飢饉
something.
は起きておりません。
And that's annoying as all hell.
なるほど。じゃあある意味百発百中なんだ。
山脇様は
Because it means this was scripted. Like, obviously, they had to tell the voice actress to start talking like this. They gave her a text and then we're like, okay, now make a pause. Every few words. Because that's just the character you are. That seemed true.
と、このままだと時間が過ぎるばかりだ。
And Midwest goodbye. Where's goodbye to each other and Warpus keeps talking while you're awkward. Oh no, I hate that. I hate that. When I say goodbye to someone, I go and leave. I have lots of my family. It's the same though. Like literally everyone is already standing to like next to the door. And we've already said goodbye. And then someone starts saying something again. And suddenly it's been 20 minutes. And we're still standing next to the door. And I've been ready to go for at least an hour. And I'm like, we already said goodbye.
そんな、私こそ あのような恥ずかしいところを助けていただき、どうしたらよいか。
Wasn't she basically blaming me here?
いろいろありましたけど、これからもよろしくお願いします。お役に立てることがあれば何でも言ってくださいね。
夫妻様。
あ、それ柄でもないんで、どうか呼び捨てでも何でもしてください。敬語もいらないですよ。
Crap.
夫妻子。
This wasn't the agreed upon social convention. I feel it.
私の、むしろ私などいかようにでもお呼びを。
Was I actually raising some flags here? Was the game this easy these days? Did she seriously fall in love with a bit of help after a head injury? Was this a soap opera or something? Well, not that I was complaining.
じゃあ、リカ子さん。
Good evening! No, this was something else. She was just especially vulnerable to men. I wish she would start speaking more quickly. As a family head, she was probably either revered from a distance or considered an enemy. Takumi did the latter. She probably never talked to someone who didn't care about those things. That actually made me feel kinda bad for her.
OK。じゃあ、植松さん&夫妻子さんだ。これで呼び合ってお友達になりましょう。
お友達
です。
こちらこそぜひ。
Thank you for that every time. In a part of the village with no one but us, we exchanged a deep bow. Uematsu-san then returned, and I checked the house for any holes. It seemed fine on that front. No monsters could get inside. Are you sure about that? Anyway, I had my place. Now I had to get one for Mamiya-san and Hashimoto-san. I tried to think of a way to encourage them to leave before the mist came, but all the things I could think of seemed unnatural. That meant my only option was the opposite, convincing them there was no way to leave, so they'd have to stay. Honestly, I did consider just letting them die. As long as I survived, I didn't really care if they did. But that didn't sit right with me. I wasn't a good guy, but not doing whatever I could right now seemed careless. My ultimate goal was to escape the loose, but at the moment all I could really do was prevent the tragedy before me. I'd think of something else if it just didn't work out, but for now I had no reason to abandon my humanity. That was why I returned to the plaza. It was still really empty and the two journalists were probably working. This was my chance. I approached the left back wheel on Hashimoto-shi's van. Reaching into my bag, I pulled out the hammer and nails I'd bought. I placed the tip of a nail against the tire and hammered it in. You could hear the sound of the air leaving. That had to be good enough. I then did the same with the other rear tire, as well as one of the front ones. Isn't that a little obvious? A 3? There. 3 out of 4 wheels? After that, I added a random array of extra nails around those to make it look like a trap or something had been run over in the grass. They couldn't leave now. I already knew they didn't have anything that could fix the tires, and they couldn't get in touch with any road service until after the mist passed. If someone from Kami Fujiyoshi came to pick them up and they left without their car, that would have been fine too. Not that I expected anyone to come. No, I just had to convince them that they had to stay here. It was a really haphazard plan. It would seem like the locals trapped them on purpose. I'd have to think of something to say about that. Anyway, I did what I could do for them. Now I just had to wait and... excuse me. My heart almost burst out of my chest.
いかがなさいました、リカ子さん。
また名前。
失礼。植松さんどうしました一体。
お腹が空きましたので、ご飯を。
Uh-huh. Well, I was pretty hungry myself too. Wait, there was something more important to worry about. Had she seen me?
大きな車ですね。
ええ。
What the hell was up with this pressure? Was it some Kami Fujiyoshi had superpower? Was she waiting for me to confess or something? I had no choice but to think up a new lie. But looking at her red eyes made me feel like she'd see through any bullshit I spun. Crap. Maybe I should just come clean and...
お腹が空きました。
Was she actually not thinking anything?
僕が何してると思ってました？
ダンゴムシの探し方。
Did she think I was as old as Meiko?
違いますよ。 見てください。パンクです。
もう
見てください。こんなのが刺さってる。
I mean, frankly, I don't think she would know a lot about cars.
太くて大きい。
しかもほら、ここなんて。
あ、そんな。
Why would you say it like that?
茶髪の男が上松様を晴天のもと手ごめにしておる。
I have done no such thing. Man, what the hell was with her appearances this time around? Okay, yeah, I couldn't lie. This conversation was pretty messed up.
誤解にも程がありますが、ちょっと取材陣を呼んできましょう。
She's the best mechanic on this side of the loop. If only she started talking a little more quickly, I wouldn't even be so obsessed, upset with her.
冗談でしょ。
Hisaka-san was completely perplexed. You know what? I just realized this man is making us. Oh my god. Wait, how? Look at his hand. He got us. He got us so good. It has a. Yeah, she does have a really nice voice. He got us. So I couldn't read his expression, but I could totally sympathize with someone being basically stranded in a place like this.
なんと不運な。
They weren't suspicious of me, so I just acted like an innocent, sympathetic bystander. Oh, the heartache.
今日は元鉄で帰る予定でしたけど、どうしますこれ。
君のブッキングは？
私は大丈夫ですけど、橋本さんは？
I don't know, I think it's funny.
娘の誕生日なんだ。
ああ、ナミちゃん。
Oh, the heartache. I had no idea he had a daughter, or was married for that matter. The fact that it came as a surprise just made my pain worse. But I shouldn't feel guilty about this. If I just ignored them, they had been torn apart by a monster.
でも本当どうしましょう。安水にはそもそも車が。野里様は何か役立つ。
I don't think he has something to fix 3 tires. Those words made me twitch.
特殊なタイヤだから難しいかな。一つならスペアがあったけど。
ロードサービスに連絡しましょう。織部さん、電話貸してもらえますか？
ええ、もちろんです。こちらへ。
They all returned to the dining hall.
なんだか気味が悪いわね。
I was left alone with the peculiar duo, but then we were joined by a muscly silhouette who'd come from the fields.
何やってんだばあちゃん。
Oh, hey.
植松のみ。あんたは？
こちら不妻子春明様です。
She went out of her way to introduce me, though she still couldn't leave off the summer.
今度こっちに越してくることになったものです。どうかよろしくお願いします。
ああ、例の室匠っつうもんだ。よろしく。上藤吉のもんには見えないが。
You don't look like you're from Huh? You really had to do something about the habit of showing sympathy for anyone who came here.
はい。都会で干上がってこちらに寄せてもらいました。チャラチャラした馬の骨ですみません。髪は染め直します。
おお。
それがいいわよ。
まあそういうのばあちゃんは嫌いだかんな。俺はどうでもいいけどよ。むしろ他のが気になるな。
I do not understand why, especially old people, are so against dyeing your hair. Like, come on! Why not? So much
他の
fun.
ことですか？
あんたが野良仕事の使い物になるかだ。上藤吉と違って安水は人を捨てねえ。が、役立たずを歓迎するほど余裕はねえ。
When mentioning Kami Fujiyoshi, he glanced at Uematsu-san.
ま、そのガタイなら何だってできんだろ。
Ooh!
早速だけど上のあぜの草刈りをよ。
Oh!
ああ、なんだか一応こっちの食堂で働くようにって言われてきたんですが。
なんだと？てめえがカオレさんと？
Crap, I messed up.
匠や、あんたは男前なんだから
For real! My guy, just tell her! Clearly, the both of you are obsessed with each other.
なんのことだ。俺は別にそんな大それたことは考えちゃいねえ。が、二人のでけえ息子とみんなの胃袋をあの細腕で支えてる香織さんに妙な目的で近づく男は
Alright.
でぶっ殺す。
Gross. That was plenty outrageous.
おお、てめえ。どんな手を使って香織さんに取り入った？
Nothing. I didn't do anything. It took a lot of effort to keep myself from lying and fueling the fire.
ああ、いえ、その上藤吉の樋口さんという人の指図で。
Takumi-san became apathetic.
ああ、そんなら仕方ねえな。
いえ、できるだけ外の仕事もこなせるようになります。
ああ、心がけはいいが、しばらくは様子見しとけ。余計な仕事させたとか、上から。
え？上の人たちは、こっちの人間がどう働くかまで気にしてるんですか？
ねえよ。あいつらはただ、俺
ら
はいつでも連中の言うことを聞くようにしておきたいだけだ。で、何やってんだみんなで。香織さんは？
なんだか記者さんの車が壊れたとかで。あ
あ？そりゃ難儀だな。
I wonder if we'll actually get to the mist
最
appearing.
悪。今日のうちには治らないことも考えた方がいいんじゃないでしょうか。
Because it's already been almost an hour.
嫌だ
And we
ね。
just barely got into the village. This was getting nowhere.
空いた部屋とかはないんでしょうか？
私の自由になるのはあの一軒だけです。
上松様、源さんの家をこの人に貸されたんですかいね。
はい。人が住まないと家は死にますし。
あんた大事にすまんといかんわよ。
Sure.
あっこは
はい。
くれぐれも上松様を手ごめにする場にしちゃいかんからね。上松様はそれは恐れ
Listen, I'm here to get out of a loop that is going to kill me and a lot of people involved, okay?
ああ、そういう。
We're not!
100% 誤解なんですが、そろそろ既成事実として捏造されかかってるので本気でやめていただきたいなぁと脱線しましたが、どうするんです？
I'd have liked it if I, the newbie, didn't have to be the one making this conversation progress.
まあ正直、あんまよそ者を休みずに止めるのはお互いのためにならねえとは思ってっけど、ばあちゃん、空いてる小屋とかねえかな？
メイコちゃんに出したのが最後よね。他は
I mean, they couldn't they just use the room in the dorm that we used last time? The only problem is that everyone needs to take shelter on their own, so they can't stay in the same place together, but there's probably more than just that one room, right? Liar! There was a room in the dorm! Oh.
ちえみ、寝すぎじゃねえか？おやっさんの手伝いしてやってくれよ。
ああ、ごめん。ちょっと向こうで寝坊の習慣ついちゃってさ。ところで、タイばあちゃん、部屋だったら
Okay, it's just one free
が
room.
一つ空いてますけど。
ちーちゃんね、知っとるでしょう。あそこは昔、吉光さんが四家の皆々様にかけようってできた場所よ。先のある子らだけでも上藤吉に近いきれいな家に住ませたい言うて。
ああ昔話始まっちゃった。
まあ不妻子だっけか？安水ってのはなんとなくこんな場所だよ。
The one that isn't very welcoming to strangers. I already knew.
なんつうか治るといいな、車。
This was bad. Just as expected, the road service would take a long time to get here. They'd be here sometime in the middle of the night if they tried to come right away. The mountain road was even more dangerous at night, so they'd agreed on the service coming in the early morning, which led us back to the talks about where they'd stay. So, by the time the discussion was over, Yamawaki-san, who was done talking, had left. She really gave us outsiders a cold shoulder, huh? Takumi-san tried suggesting they stay in the van, and I was surprised to hear they were receptive to the idea. Them being a man and a woman was one thing, but I was more concerned if the van had enough space for someone that huge and another person to lie down. Still, it looked like they were about to agree to just leave it at that, but that was no good. They wouldn't survive the night like that. So far, the only people I hadn't met were the students who were in school, Kanzo Makishima-san, who was out hunting since morning, and the old man who cried wolf. Since I met just about everyone, I chose to take my leave. It wouldn't have been natural if I tried to talk them out of that. I had to get places for them, but my only option was the one I didn't have much faith in. Anyway, doorbell.
Oh, 新参の何の用かね。
実はちょっと長者でらっしゃる野里さんに伺いたいことが。
いい心がけだがね。あまり板につかぬ提灯持ちは見ていて心よいものではない。文相応の振る舞いをしてはどうかね。
Excuse me. Was my politeness that insincere?
おみそれしました。それで要件なのですが、近々霧が出るというのは本当なのでしょうか。
The effect my words had on Kiyonosuke was impressive. He tried to act calm, but his wandering eyes made it clear he wasn't.
なんだそれは。どこから聞いたのかね。
上松さん did.
迷信を吹き込んだのは誰だ一体。
上松さんが話してくださいました。
He felt silent. The guy was easy to read.
霧がうんぬん言ったのは他の方です。僕は樋口昌司さんという方に勧められてここに来たんですが。
なんだ昌司か。私の一つ下だ。奴がどうしたと？
いえ、聞き間違いかもしれませんが、じきに霧が出るかもとおっしゃっていたような気がするのですが。
There was no truth to my words, but they would become true when the mist came.
だけど、上松さんがさっき、霧が出たらいろいろしなきゃならないっておっしゃってて、今安水で車がパンクして足止めを食らってる人たちとかどうするのかなと思いまして。
何？そんなことになっているのかね。面倒なことだ。
はい。ちなみにどう思われますか？
安水集落において初夏に濃密な霧が立ち込めることは10年や20年に一度あることだ。
Decade or two.
時期的に見ればまああり得るか。
Well, you might be wrong.
それの予測ができるほど
そうか。ちなみに何か危ないんです？皆さんちょっと緊張してるみたいで。
濃霧が出ると必ず安水で死人が出るからな。
Was that an okay thing to say?
ああ、いや、誤解せんでもよろしい。この濃霧というのは君の想像するよりもはるかに濃く、視界はゼロになると聞く。
I knew that, but yeah, I couldn't have imagined mists that dense unless I saw them for myself.
よって霧が出ている間は謹慎する習いとなっているが、バカな連中が
that's why he says someone dies.
転落事故などを起こしているのだ。
Not for anything supernatural happening, nah.
なるほど。
ここから少し離れた崩落事故現場は見たかね。あれはうちの家が請け負った工事なんだが、あれも霧のせいで死人が出た。まったくとっとと引き上げさせればよかったものを、発注者の言い分はいかにも強引で。
I felt stupid for ever considering crazy theories about some Satanaga illness. The mist was dangerous in and of itself, and that made for a good official reason to stay indoors when it came. He seemed to believe the official reason and thought it wouldn't kill him. If he actually knew about the true dangers lurking in the mist, he'd do everything he could to leave Yasumizu. He was from a fat family, but he didn't seem to know all the secrets. She, on the other hand, must have known something. I'd love to find out more, but... Hold on. He just told me something weird. The mist led to on-site deaths?
上の土砂崩れの現場見たか？ありゃ8年前に野里が手入れたら崩れてそのまんまになってる。気味悪がって片付けもしやがらねえ。作業員の死体は俺が掘り出して埋めた。
I was told that Takumi-san buried the bodies, but if it happened in the mist during a feast of the Yomi Purge, didn't that mean he should have been present during the feast? From what I could tell last time, the mist scared the people here and drove them to panic. Kanzo Makishima hadn't reacted like that, while the old wolf guy had said the wolves were coming. It was likely they'd experienced a feast before, but I didn't know what had happened to the other people, or what I'd even do with that information. One thing I could say was that the survivors either killed or silently approved of killing people. Jimmy could be one of them. And so could the students. Even if I couldn't connect all of the dots, it was entirely possible. I had to keep myself together. I had many things to think about later, but for now I had a goal to complete.
にもかかわらず本家の連中は。
そうだ、野里さん。あの工事現場は野里さんの辞書なのですか？
そうだが、どうかしたかね。
あのプレハブ、使えたりしないですかね？
使う？
困ってる外の方を車で止めるよりはまだいいんじゃないかと。
After thinking for a moment, Kyunosuke returned inside. I'd expected him to say something like, "Why would I, a village head, sully my hands with Yasumisa's problems," or something, so this came as a surprise. Kyunosuke came back shortly.
おそらくこれだろう。事故の後、先代がこちらで預かっていたのを鍵箱の中で見たような気がした通り。
What the fuck is a prefab?
ありがとうございます。
待ちたまえ。貸すとは言ってない。そもそもなぜ長者である
Why would you go through the trouble of finding the key then? And there it was!
それはそうですね。申し訳ありません。
冗談だよ。
Bruh.
貸さんとも言っていない。
Oh. Wow, what a pain in the ass.
君は室や芹沢と違って長者に対する礼儀というものをわきまえているようだ。そんな相手ならば安水のものだからといって無下には扱わんよ。藤吉の住民の安寧に尽くすのが長者というものだ。
ありがとうございます。
Oh, so he believed in the concept of noblesse oblige. Shame he didn't have the ability for it. I don't know how to pronounce that. So he had to check if the place was even usable. The equipment and materials were all gone. The only thing of note here was a sink on the wall. The flooring was cold and a bit sandy. But with a bit of cleaning and a futon, it could be a decent living space. There was no running water, but if you placed a water bucket here, whoever was living here could easily wash themselves. Ah, but there are several keys I am missing. Okay, well, return to the dining hall. I now had one empty living space. Getting the other, the dorm room, was even harder. I didn't even think I could force it at this stage. However, it was still a better option than just wandering around looking for alternatives that may not even exist. This would be a real waste of time if I didn't end up saving them. I wasn't about to stop trying though, it was still just a bit afternoon. Honestly, I was a bit hungry. But there was a strange, powerful reek coming from the dining hall. I had no idea what it could have caused this. Was it a toilet? No, it was more along the lines of rot. Animal rot at that. Did someone already die? My memories made me forget the situation was still peaceful and I dashed. Suddenly, a dense wall rose up before me.
Nanja.
I was pushed away. I spaced out for a moment, but then I realized I'd bumped into the local hunter, Kansuma Kishimashi. This was the first time I'd seen him hold his gun in his hands, but I was even more troubled by his face. I was pretty sure I'd seen the old lady tower or something similar the first time. All that had happened later made me forget about it, but man, was it weird.
すみません。変な匂いがして大丈夫かなって思って。
獅子なれよ。
え？
獅子なれを似とる。記者に食わす言うて。
Oh yeah, Hisako-san was there to eat something strange.
気ぃつけろ、兄ちゃん。
はい。よろしければお名前を。
牧島。
And he left. The bundle he had in his left hand told me he'd only been here to get his lunch. He was as tough as I remembered. The chest made it hard to believe how old he was. What a hunk of a man. Yeah, see, that guy was a hunk. Not you. I'm still confused on why they chose to translate Ikemen as hunk of all things. The thought made me seem like some love-struck teen girl. Anyway, that cleared things up. The smell was caused by cooking. I gathered my resolve and went inside.
あら、どこに行ってらしたの？早速手伝いがあったのに。
Tori-san glared at me a bit. Crap, I'd have to make up for the points I'd lost.
ああ、すみません。ちょっと野里さんに用があって。
Some are more hunk than others.
用？樋口から何かことづけです？
いえ。間宮さん、橋本さん、ちょっと。
Besides someone in charge here on that sleepy head, you also had the journalists who were busy taking photos and jotting down notes. I was impressed by the professionalism, being able to get back to work right after the problem was solved, although it actually wasn't.
お仕事中すみません。実は野里さんが夜を越すなら車は良くないとプレハブの鍵をくれまして。
あら、ボンク。野里さんがそんなことを？
Well, it was nice to find out how she usually called him.
どうもあと一部屋くらいはあるみたいだし、そちらもなんとか開けていただいて、屋根の下で休まれるがよろしいかと。
ご好意はありがたくいただくけど、無理言ってまで部屋をもらおうとかは思わないわよ。
Of course she didn't. That was a normal thing to think.
香織さん、やっぱ寮の部屋開けた方がいいですって。大里さんに負けたら安水の恥ですよ。
それは何とも言えないけど、ただそうね、別に変な人はいないけど。
Personally, I do not see a problem in sleep, like in a normally in just sleeping in the car for a night. But yeah, since we know that people die here,
香織さん、お弁当もらえるかしら。
And the most important person around joined the
な
scene.
んね。
野里さんが鍵をくれたんです。プレハブですけども、これで一人は屋根の下で休めそうです。
あら、それは。
I wasn't explicit about it, but she instantly understood what I was getting at.
だけどね。
私は大丈夫ですよ。お隣ができても。
ちなみに、寮、そこってどういう建物なんです？
あそこはね、いずれ安水を去る子供たちのための場所なんですよ。安水に住むということは、一生安水のものになるってこと。だから、あそこだけ、安水では特別な場所なの。
Oh.
上富士吉の人も、そのことはあんまり。
She wasn't finished yet. So this was just another way Kami Fujiyoshi exerted power over Yasumizu. I could understand why they didn't want to mess with it, but I knew from experience that it wasn't an insurmountable obstacle. They'd open it up for an emergency, but tomorrow would be too late. And they didn't really have a good way to convince him that this was indeed an emergency.
大丈夫ですよ。これでも車で寝るの慣れてますし、プレハブは橋本さんが使ってください。一人ならあの車で十分ですし、ここまで運転任せきりですし。
逆の方が良くないかしら。
いやでもプレハブって上のでしょ。女の人が寝るのはちょっとな。
As we pondered,
すみません。
Hashimoto-san actually spoke up and walked up to Tai-san.
なんでしょうかね。
もしまともな部屋をお持ちであれば、彼女のために開けてやっていただけないでしょうか。こんな仕事をやってますが、まだ嫁入り前の身です。
What the fuck does her not being married have to do with
あまり無
anything?
理はさせたくありません。できる限りのお礼はいたします。どう
He bowed. His large body bent in two, but Tai-san still had to look up at him.
そうね。だけど。
Wow, Tai-san was on the verge of giving in.
おい、不妻子、今頃戻ってきやがったが。てめえ、飯時にほっつき歩いて、香織さんを手伝わねえとは、いい度胸だ、おら！
おお、匠兄ちゃん、いいところへ。
なんだ？
Perfect timing indeed. He was the best person to convince Tai-san. It's going really well. And in the end, she agreed. The word unmarried meant a lot to her, apparently. She seemed to become more considerate of Mamiya-san after that. One of the reasons for this victory was the pressure emitted by Hashimoto-san's massive presence, and the other was the fact that he presented a reason that resonated with her. And then Takumi-san joined the scene and gave her the final push. This wasn't exclusive to Yasumizu, but finding a compromise in a community without common interests was really difficult. It was especially hard when you couldn't give proper reason for your words. It started to suspect I was a slacker, but I said that I was called by Nosada-san, and though it surprised them, they believed me. As a result, I had to make up a story about how he was shy, but actually considerate of everyone, which was why he'd called me. After all, I couldn't let them think I decided this by myself. After we got the key from Tai-san, the two journalists and I left the dining hall to prepare our living spaces. Nice. Good for us. The dorm room was clean to begin with. There was gas, water, and a futon exactly like I remembered it. The house I'd be staying at was clean too. All I had to do was get a futon from the dining hall and fill the pail with water. The prefab tower took a while to clean. Takumi-san brought the cleaner pieces of tatami from the abandoned shacks here, which made it a relatively livable space.
まあ、せっかく一晩こ住んだし、ここの日常生活も体験しときましょう。 記事にできないのが残念だわ。
They seem to be satisfied without reason.
今後はもうちょっと安全な場所で仕事ができるといいね。
すみません、私の依頼こんなんばっかで。
こっちはいいんだ。保険もあるし、安全性だって運送地帯よりはマシ。
He'd been in such places. He did more like work than his looks would have believed.
でもキューちゃんは女性でしょ。
だからそれはいい子なしですって。働いている間は性別なんて関係ないでしょ。
危険地帯でのダメージリスクは女性の方が高いんだよ。
しょうがないじゃないですか。他の仕事も男も寄ってこないんですか。
難しいね。
The relationship was just that of good business partners. Mamiya-san was a passionate journalist, while Hashimoto-san was a senior who was worried about her and helped her out. There was a decent balance here.
意外ですね。間宮さんお綺麗なのに。
Haruaki, stop flirting with everyone! I swear to God.
褒めても何も出ないわよ。
Damn it.
いえいえ、僕がこんな底辺野郎じゃなきゃ迷いなくアタックしてます
Oh
よ。
my God. Get my dude.
光栄だわ。久石くんいくつ？
24.
24です。
私今年でみそじ突入だからね。さすがに申し訳ないわ。
Oh, come on. Unmarried 30-year-olds weren't rare in this day and age, though I preferred women who were a bit more bothersome.
このたら
What
い
the
は
fuck
何
is
だ
that
い？
supposed to mean?
あ、体を拭く水を溜めてあります。
一日くらいいいよ。
なんかそういう風習らしいですよ。
ふーん。
ちょっと詳しく聞かせてくれる？
Alright, this was a good chance to share info with them. Presenting it as info I heard from Uematsu-san and Kyonosuke-shi, I told them about what had to be done when the mists came. I couldn't sound too knowledgeable though, since I was a newbie here, but I was able to imply that there was a supernatural danger involved. Mamiya-san was extremely intrigued and quickly asked for extra info like the stuff about the 4 hat families. I did my best to mention only what I'd found out this time around, but I couldn't help worrying that I would say too much.
興味深いわね。思いっきり神道的な発想だけど、どういう由来で伝わったのかしら。変化した鳥居、お守りをいただく名家、霧の時に限定されたみそぎの風習。マロードの艦隊はしないみたいだけど、不思議だわ。こんな偏僻な農村になぜこんな得意な風習が残ったのかしら。昔はもっと特殊な集落だったとか？
やっぱりそっちのが向いてそうだね。キューちゃんの。
あった。これは
Where does that name come from though, Q-chan? What part of her name would make Q-chan work?
キューちゃんが寮の部屋でいいよね。それで僕がここ。
あ、よかったら下の小屋は橋本さん使われませんか？こっちは手狭ですし。
大丈夫大丈夫。どこでも寝られるから。それに君はこれから住むんだろう。早いところ家に馴染んだ方がいい。
He had a point. Also, I borrowed the place from Uematsu-san. I didn't have the right to let anyone just use it. Huh. Well, okay. I wonder where...
わかりました。
He's
余計なこ
16!
とをすみませ
Where
ん。
would we get that?
いや、こちらこそありがとう。いろいろ動いてくれたんでしょ？
え？
野里さんだっけ？気を回しそうな方には見えなかったから。
いやいや、そんなことないですよ。
この子は結構無理しがちだからね。僕が至らない分助かるよ。
もう、たかが一回り上のくらいで父親みたいになんないでくださいよ。
Oh, so he's 42? 43? Something along those lines? There was something about him that bothered me. He is very sharp. He is very fucking sharp. It's just the first time around we couldn't really see much of that because he immediately died. But I'm not sure if I want him to actually survive. Because maybe then he would take part in the fest as well. Anyway, with that done, I figured I'd spend my remaining time trying to rub elbows with the rest of Yasumizu. Though I already had a job here, I had to make up for not helping out at the dining hall before noon. But
とりあえずお仕事の前に腹ごしらえをしてもらいましょう。
Kaori-san gave me a bowl. For some reason her smile seemed a bit warped. It probably wasn't on purpose though, it was just the effect of the smell. No, the miasma coming from the food she gave me. It was just that powerful.
何か怒ってます？
え？いいえ。どうして？
I couldn't feel any anger in her voice or expression, but being new here, I couldn't understand the mentality of someone trying to present something like this as food. As I twitched and feared that this was punishment for slacking off, Kaori-san suddenly gave me a full smile.
この匂いね。獅子慣れというの。獅子を保存するための昔からの知恵。
なるほど。
So this was the infamous dish made of fermented game meat. The nade part of the name had to refer to long fermentation, just like in nade sushi for fermented sushi. I had no clue how they gave it such a strong smell though. They reused the same marinade for decades, like with the salt they used for sun-dried mackerel.
大昔はそのまま食べてたみたいだけど、さすがに危なかったのかしら。今はこうして
yeah, raw meat.
鍋や汁の身にしているの。本来安水のお祝い料理なんですよ。記者さんたちにお出しした分のお裾分け。それと私から歓迎の印。
Okay, I had to steam myself. I actually had a soft spot for strange delicacies. I tried sun-dried mackerel and any other weird foods I could get my hands on. No way I could refuse this.
だって私、小さい頃からずっと安水のものを食べてきた。
Would eating this turn me into a zombie or something? No, I would prove that idea wrong.
いただきます。
I picked up the bowl and the chopsticks. Brown rice covered in a ton of crumbled bits of meat. The soup stock seemed as light as what they used in Kami Fujiyoshi, but I didn't know what to think of the meat's color. What was up with this greasy, shiny green surface? The reek attacked my nose once again. Damn it! I couldn't back out now. Gathering my resolve, I quickly put some stock, rice, and meat into my mouth. What? Was it good? I really couldn't tell. I had absolutely no idea what I was eating here. The texture, the sensation on the tongue, everything was new to me. The taste was extremely acidic, salty, and rich in animal protein. But the weird smell smothered most of it, forcing me to continuously convince myself that I was eating something good. I felt like my body would reject it all if I didn't. Holding the aversion at bay, I somehow swallowed it. The aftertaste was better than I expected, but as the reek faded, it made way for a strong, beastly smell. Yeah, in a way, this taste was an exciting form of entertainment by itself. Ugh.
あら、いい食べっぷり。
慣れればいけそうですね。
わかるわ。私も安水に来て、最初はどうかと思ったけど、
The fuck?
今は時々無性に食べたくなるの。
I'm a very picky eater. I very rarely try something I haven't had before. I wasn't lying, it really did seem like a taste I could get used to. It was hard to honestly call it good, but at least it did feel nutritious. As reciting a prayer, I repeatedly tried to convince myself of that as I emptied the bowl I was given. Oof.
ごちそうさまでした。
Oof.
お粗末様でした。
So I'd finally eaten something from Yasumizu. Did that mean I was a true local now? Or Yomipito? Whatever, as long as I could go back to square one, I would explore all the options I had available. Rhythmic cutting sounds were reaching my ears. As Kaori-san began preparing food in the kitchen, I did the work assigned to me. I had to repair the numerous cracked and broken dishes they had here. Apparently they couldn't afford anything new, so they opted to take what was thrown out in Kami Fujiyoshi and repair it into something usable. Was there no end to how pitiful things were here? Broken plates and cups were all wrapped in old newspaper, and all I had to do was unwrap them and put them back together. It was actually kind of fun, sort of like a jigsaw puzzle, but man, there were a lot of them. I'd have to do this for entire boxes full of broken tableware. I did wonder whether they actually needed so much, but apparently they just barely had enough, so they wanted to have some spares. I used some all-purpose glue from my 100 yen shop. They bought it from a nearby town. Kaori-san laughed about it, saying, "We get far more value out of this than a 100 yen bowl," and I just about cried. It was a strange mix of modern frugality and the poverty of ancient times, and it exemplified just how weird Yasumizu really was. As I worked, I realized that many of the plates and cups had a familiar symbol on them.
これはどういうマークなんです？
I asked Kaori-san over the counter.
それは水場のお家の門よ。
The Hyuchi. I was about to mention a name, but then I realized that Kaori-san probably didn't have good memories of them. I thought that examining these crusts helped understand the lineages and the like, but I had no knowledge necessary for this.
他の長者にも家紋があるのですか？
ええ、私は野里のが好きよ。
It's
可愛く
cute!
て
Cute. From what I recall, the Nosato family was the crow. Did it have a bird on it or something? Uematsu was the spider, Nosato was the crow, Higuchi was the monkey, and Miguruma was the snake. They worshipped the mountain and these guardians. It was significant not only for Fujiyoshi's culture, but the feast of the Yomi Purge as well. If memory served, Chiemi had told me last time that whether you had a guardian or not was relayed by a monkey, by a mark of blood on your skin. Waking up to find blood on your body was something straight out of a horror movie. Didn't the wolves in Haru-chan say it was done through the dreams? If that was true, I'd be at a loss. It would be an actual supernatural phenomenon. Still, were wolves and humans informed differently? This was something I have to look into starting tomorrow.
他の家紋ってどこかにあります？
野里屋敷なら野里のはあると思うけど、他のは植松さんの胸につけてるお飾りは家紋をかたどってるわ。
That thing, huh? I had thought it was kind of weird looking.
今度探してみます。知らずに粗末に扱うと大変なことになりそうだ。
それはそうかもしれないわね。何か見つけたら教えましょうね。
Sure.
どうも。
I continued walking as we talked. There was a small ancient TV here. Apparently you could get public broadcasting here, but not much else. It was probably enough for everyone to gather here and have dinner while watching something. I was told that all the dorm rooms had TVs too. That had to be another way they pampered the children who'd eventually leave this place. It strongly demonstrated how much of an exception a dorm was for
うちの
Yasumi.
長男が今寮にいて、昨日のドラマがどうだったとか。
Jeez, many hexagonal cells like that. True.
ここじゃ夜しかつけないから。
Normally giving TVs to the younger generations would be a sign of luxury, but it was the other way around here. The children went to the school in Kami Fujiyoshi, but they never went anywhere beyond that and just went straight home, and Kami Fujiyoshi was secluded to begin with. That was why they'd prioritized giving TVs to the children, to let them know what was happening outside the village and to help them learn modern Japanese culture. Apparently, they also covered their electricity and gas bills. They had to be frugal, but they didn't mind supporting the children's access to TV. Jimmy was the first Yasumizu child to make it to college, and Yasunaka-kun was expected to follow her footsteps. Basically, they thought if they supported the young ones and helped them become prominent figures in society, the money they'd sent back would make life easier for those who stayed here. The classic. They go out into the big city and make a lot of money so they can send it back home.
ご覧の通り、次男は不出来なので、目の届くところに置かなきゃと。でも長男は
Yeah, and your eldest thinks you like the younger one better than you like him.
死んだ夫も頭は良かったわ。でも気性も激しい
It's just
人だった。
always, not so
頭
good
と気性を
having favorites
息子はそれぞれ分け
when
て
it
継
comes
い
to
で
your
しまっ
children.
た。申し訳ないと思ってるのだけどね。次男は難産で、私もあの子も死にかけたくら
Can't
い
be
だっ
asked
た
to
か
improve
ら。
ourselves. You got this next
その
generation.
時に
Fuck
かけすぎ
yeah!
た苦労があの子をああしたのかしら。
Nori-san was pretty talkative about this. I knew it was a stranger and she had to introduce Yasumisu to me, but this was a bit too much if you ask me. It was probably a sign of just how hopeless she felt right now. Maybe Takumi-san should just propose to her and lighten the Oribe's burden. Marrying a widow with sons in middle to high school was difficult, and I could only assume that was his main issue. Feeling a bit conflicted, I glanced at the cheap alarm clock on the TV. It was 3 p.m. Any minute now.
ただいま。あれ。
見知らぬやつ。
There, the high schoolers were back.
おかえりあなたたち。こちら急遽休みずに移り住むことになった房石さんよ。
よろしくね。
珍しいですね。織部安永です。
ここの息子さんだよね。話は金がね。
母さん何言ったのさ。
不詳の息子をよろしくって。
まったく。あ、こっちが鴨志田近持ちで、こっちが牧島春です。
モッチーだ。ギブミー命。
Huh? Nope.
ねえモッチー、何あれ、イケメンってやつ？怖い。
多分休んの方がつらと少年はいいよ。
兄ちゃんなら勝てる？
勝てる勝てる。
貴様に勝負を申し込む。
待てい、僕が相手だ。
よーし、おしっこ我慢対決スタート。
貴様、僕が絶賛我慢中だと見通していたとでも言うのか。
実は僕もそろそろ限界だったんだ。
先に漏らした方が勝ちにしよ
乗った。いや乗らない。
う。早く行きなさいよ、二人と。
あらら。
We both had to forfeit. What the fuck?
不妻子さん、モッ
Actually.
チーと気が合いますね。
シッコマンの絆だな。
Oh no. Great. I already hated the nickname he gave us last time, but Pissman is not an improvement. Not at all.
そうだな。いや違う。
改めて、こっちははるちゃんです。
よろしくお願いします。
よろしく。なかなか独創的なファッションだね。
悪いですか？去年の暮れに梶原の100円ショップで揃えたんだけ
Oh,
ど。
I think it's cute. That was just sad. It was something I'd expect from an elementary
い
schooler.
や、いいと思うよ。これから仲良くやっていこ
兄ちゃん、ナンパされた。
He literally just said he hopes to get along.
違うと思うな。
Man, Hanuchan was distrustful of me even without the misunderstandings regarding Chiemi and I. Perhaps there were people you just couldn't get along with. How sad.
あ、こんなに治ったんですね、食器。本来は僕らがやるようなことを。すみません。
う。いやいや、楽しかったし、それにまだたっぷり残ってるしね。
安永、そんなことはいいから、早く予習復習をやりなさいな。
ああ、そうだね。寮に戻るよ。
勝負はまただ、シッコマン。
No!
それじゃあ失礼します。
The high schoolers left.
これでだいたい安水の全員に会われたのかしら。
そうですね。
There was one exception though.
すみません、生返事で。1、2、3、記者さん入れて14人とあったかな。
1人、2人。あら、不妻子さんを入れないなら15人いるはずね。
Suddenly, as if rehearsed, the final person appeared. Hi.
あ、ちょうどよかった。
Hi,
こ
Mr.
ちら安水のおじいさん
I do
よ。
not trust you. No one knew his name, did they?
こんにちは。
Like always, it was hard to tell whether he was listening or not.
今度こっちに住むことになりました。どうかよろしくお願いします。
The wolf is coming. There it was, his stick.
どうしました？
He beckoned me closer. I carefully brought my ear to his mouth.
お
It's way back.
狼が来るぞ。
びっくりしたな。
I evaded the potential damage to my eardrums.
えへへ
I had no idea what he was thinking, but he was grinning.
腹減った。
ちょっと待ってくださいね。今おにぎりでもしますから。
This might have actually been the first time I saw him properly communicate with someone. Once given the onigiri, he quickly munched it all up, leaving a big mess, and just staggered out. According to Kaori-san, he'd always been a part of the whole Yasumisu package. He seemed to have something wrong with his head and tended to cause trouble here. Always a pawn, huh? Would it be wrong to assume he'd experienced something that made him go insane? At the very least, his catchphrase about wolves coming gave me that impression. He experienced a feast once, and the fear made the boy who cried wolf become the old man who cried wolf. Perhaps he'd even seen nothing. I'd love to hear what he had to say, but that seemed difficult.
これで全員かしら。
みたいですね。
I was glad to have heard so much from Kaori-san, but I would have liked to talk to the young ones more. She and me too. Was it possible for me to forge a proper relationship with her starting tomorrow?
18時まで休憩にしましょう。不妻子さんのおかげですごく早く片付いちゃった。
いえいえ。
After helping with the dinner preparation, I was mostly done for the day, so I was free to take a breather. It was almost 5 p.m. I hadn't been keeping track of time on the previous loop, but the mist had to appear soon. Needless to say, I was slightly tense. Not having anything better to do, I went outside. I looked up at the sky. The evening sun bathed everything in a red hue. This was probably the last time I see the mountain in the distance. No, This time I would survive until the mist cleared. Then I would look at this with the one dear to me and leave this place for good. As I gathered my resolve. You still don't know the proper lyrics, do you? I suddenly heard an off-key singing voice. It completely deflated the tension of the scene. I could see Meiko running through the plaza. She'd clearly noticed me. Uematsu-san was right behind her. That wasn't my name.
Haruaki だよ。
久石さん、お疲れ様です。
まだまだ元気ですよ。
頼もしいです。夕飯前に少し下の原っぱを見に行こうかと。
Oh, just like last time, huh? I've been busy fixing my bike here, so I hadn't even noticed them go down.
下に原っぱがあるんですか？
はい。本当を言えば墓地なんですが。
お墓ですか。何があるんです？ああ、そういえば植松さんの服装は仏教のものにちょっと似ていますね。もしかして供養もされてるとか？
はい。植松は葬儀の家でもありましたから、葬式仏教も混じっているかも。
So Mamiya-san was right. Bedroom woman servants, was it? Perhaps they protected not only dreams but also eternal sleep, peace of the dead.
血筋が細くなって実務が行えなくなった後は、
Oh.
身車様にお任せしていますけれど。
What's that supposed to mean?
それでも休みずに済むようになってからはその墓の供養はしている？
自分ではそのつもりです。ただ、
何です？
ちょっと気になって。
She looked toward the direction of Sadanaga again. Perhaps she could feel the coming of the mist with her skin. I heard that sensitive people could sense incoming weather changes by differences in pressure and humidity alone.
何か起きるんです？
いいえ、気のせいだと思います。
Uematsu-san leaned on the pillar supporting the well's roof. Apparently she decided against going to the field. Realizing this, Meiko started playing around.
子供は元気ですね。
はい。皿長から迷い込んだということで、皆怖がっていましたが、明るい子でよかったです。
どんな事情があったのでしょうね。
どこかの山で無理心中か何かを逃れてきたのかもしれませんね。
It seemed likely. Takumi-san had mentioned last time that lots of suicidal people gathered here.
しかし、どうして
I was about to ask why she was the one to take care of her, but then I remembered something. She took in the corruption. That was one of the roles she was expected to fulfill. It felt wrong to me, but I didn't know what I actually had a problem with. Meiko's parents? The locals who treated her like filth? Or perhaps the customs and superstitions that caused it? You're still singing it wrong!
斬新な歌ですね。上富士吉でも放送で聞いたな。
I actually heard it here in the last loop, but whatever.
我らを生かすこの山、神内山の化身、神内明神様の教えを歌った。神内山のお守りは日かがちふましらみからすよくも
She began singing out of nowhere.
夕霧立てば
That actually sounds good when she does it. Her clear voice vanished into the wind, passing this empty plaza. However, I could hear it very well. Damn it, I was a little too quick. The tone of the song suddenly changed. The singing now brought out feelings of unease.
切り立った。
Why are you covered in what looks to be blood? An ice cold voice cut her off. I looked at the source and a chill went down my spine. It was Chiemi, covered in the red of the evening, as well as the red of blood. Her whole body was covered in blood.
お疲れ様です。疲れました。
Huh?
芹沢さん、それどうしたの？
ああ、こりゃ失礼しました。いきなりだったらビビ
A
る。
little? She gave me a broad grin.
獅子の解体をされてたのかと。
当たりです。朝に肝臓じいちゃんが仕留めたのが
Bruh.
本物でね。筋やら骨やらごっついのなんの。
Can't help but spill strawberry jam everywhere when opening a jar. Oh yeah, happens to me all the time. Such a pain to get the jam out of my clothes. Takumi-san had told her to help
す
Kanzo-san.
ごいですね。芹沢さん、解体なんかできるんですか？
まあ慣れですよ、慣れ。
っていうか、その普段着が血まみれでいいんですか？
引っかぶる気はなかったんだけど、ちょっと手が滑っちゃって。まあ全く同じ着替え持ってきてるからいいんですけどね。
She laughed and it made her look even scarier.
というか、ちえみでいいですよ。敬語とかもいらないです。今のリカ子さん？
いえ。
It clearly was.
じゃあ千恵美ちゃん、僕のことも春秋と呼んでよ。話し方もタメ語で結構。
あ、本当ですか？じゃあ春秋さん、ご飯の時。
His hair isn't really pink to just can't get the gem out of it. Sure.
ちなみに、もしかして今晩は獅子肉のご相伴に預かれるのかな？
もちろん、今日はごちそうだ。
やったぜ。楽しみですね、植松さん。
What?
リカ子とお呼びください。
リカ子さん？
What kind of response was that?
なんでしょう。春はあるはら。
Anohana.
春秋様。
She was about to call me by some weird name, but she somehow managed to actually get my real one right. Problem being that she called out to me, but didn't actually have anything to say. Oh boy. Oh, and what's your problem, Chiemi-san?
春秋さん、よかったら獅子の解体見学しに来ない？でっかい狩猟ナイフでブッシュ肉を断つよ。
Bush. Wow, that kind of invitation would have weirded out anyone normal but me. I was actually intrigued.
春秋様。
はい。
あちらへ行きませんか？
どちらへ？
墓場へ。
An invitation even freakier than the previous one. It felt like she'd take me straight to the land of the dead, though that was interesting in its own way.
リカ子さん、あんな原っぱで何するつもりですか？
芹沢様こそ血の宴などけったいな。いくら休みずの務めとはいえ、血は汚れにつながるのですよ。
リカ子さんこそエッチいことはバッチいことですよ。
You're both weird people. I'll tell you that much.
何をご想像されてるの？
んなこと言ってリカ子さん結構むっつりっぽいからな。
そんな。
大丈夫。男子はみんな。
Can we just get it on with the funny, oh, people are dying game?
でも残念。エロパワーでもちえみさんはリカ子さんを超えるから。そんな。
And not whatever the fuck this is.
君ら、何言ってるんですか？
さゆきさん、待って。
なんだって？
ねえ子、一体何を？
あ、リカ子さん脱落？じゃあちえみもらっちゃおっかな。
そんなうまい話が。
割と好みですよ。春秋さんがこっち住むなら里帰りする楽しみができたかな。
Thank you for the posture check. What the hell? So I had a chance to cheer me in this route too, huh?
芹沢さんがいない間チャンスだらけ。
なんとそれはまずい。
And with Ikaku-san too.
メイコちゃん、かけっこしようぜ。
I ran around with her like I was a kid her own age again. As much as I enjoyed them having a cat fight over me, I knew that we were almost out of time. The dense mist began flowing into the plaza. My tone was a bit forced, but no one paid any heed.
みんな霧が出た。
Jimmy's loud voice flung everyone into a frenzied panic.
おやさんは
年寄り扱いしてんじゃねえ。
Oh wow! Haru's having a normal one.
チー、ガキどもを連れて寮行け。
春明さん、
案内は
わかった。頼みます。春明さん、これが安い。
No, my virginity is in danger, girl.
絶対
Yeah.
に手順は守って。
あ、
これが噂のノーム。
Oh yeah, very lucky. Please lock yourself in and don't come out. I'm begging you.
機材に悪そうだな。
それどころじゃないんです。部屋があってよかったわ。すぐにそちらへ逃げてください。
Cleanse your soul.
間宮さん、こっちだから。カメラマンさんは。
俺が行く。プレハブだろ。おっさん来い。転ぶなよ。
そんな焦らなくても。
I couldn't help but worry.
お神さん。
Yeah. At the edge of my fading vision, I saw the old man mutter that and walk off.
メイコ、春明様、嫌な予感が当たったようです。
Yeah, who would have fucking guessed?
霧が出たら家に閉じこもるんでしたっけ？
みそぎ、物意味、夢枕、宴の支度、必ず3つお守りください。
体拭いて、鍵かけて、寝る？
そう。ご飯は明日まで待ってね。
うん、わかった。
掟を守れば、今日は誰も。
どういうことですか？
今日は宴の支度。明日からの宴に備えて支度せぬものをもう言ってください。
Nikaku-san took Meiko in her hands and took a step back. That alone made her face less clear.
必ず支度をして明日また会いたいから。
必ず守ります。
I shouted that right before her face vanished. She clearly liked me. So much that she was almost crying. Bro. She probably assumed I wouldn't believe her and thought I'd be a pile of gold tomorrow. Not a chance. I knew how serious this was and understood the depths of their fear and despair. And on top of it all, I wanted to help them. I wanted to reassure them by making that all too clear. I made my way carefully downhill to my hut. Unlock, enter, lock. Oh man, I felt so much safer than last time. After all, I could actually look up, had a decently sized space that was protected from the mist, and had a nice place to lie down. I made it this far. That alone was a strong sign that I was doing way better than before. I turned on a light. I actually had electricity here. Well, I'd had it in the dorm last time too. All that was really cut was the telephone wires through the dining hall. Weird to think that mist and severed phone wires were enough to create a closed circle like this one. Even weirder that I actually came back here of my own volition. Well, I wouldn't say that. We did get all of the bad ends that were like, okay, well, just not gonna go here this time around. Ha 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 ha. I reached into the bag at the corner of the room and opened a yellow box of food. It was probably unfair to everyone else, but I needed the energy. I'd have a hell of a time tomorrow. After my half-assed excuse for dinner, I took the wet towel from the pail and washed my body. I then checked if the door was really locked. All that was left was to spread out the futon and sleep. Could I though? After all, I had so many things on my mind. Pikachu? Okay.
Pikachu! Booga booga! Pikachu!
Those are things I'd learned today. I found out how I could change how things went down. This time I, somehow, succeeded in becoming an inhabitant here and saved the journalists. I had no idea if this would make things better than last time, but it was clear things were different. That alone was big. Had to be. Also, I had a feeling there was at least one Yasumizu inhabitant who'd experienced a feast before. This wasn't that new, but now I felt like the elders weren't the only suspects. Takumi-san could have experienced one too. Tomorrow, I could probably ask if there was a mist before, and I could actually make it sound natural. Dramatic background music for the Pikachu, yeah! The settlement's history is just as deserving of an investigation as its customs and superstitions. And Hikaku Uematsu. She might have actually been way weirder than I first thought. She felt often and went nuts when you just called her by name. Despite her weirdness, though, there was a certain charm to her. She was kind of like a fancy-looking restaurant that you were afraid to go into, but when you mustered the courage, it turned out to be unexpectedly cheap and sold simple, yet nice flavors, making you really attached to it. But, objectively speaking, it felt like she was actually attracted to me. But why? Did our first meeting leave that much of an impression? Not that I minded the intention, but it seemed a bit too good to be true. Whatever the case, I'd formed a bond that I certainly didn't expect last time. Assuming I solved this whole mystery, what would I do next? Pulling through my line, actually living here would upset too many parties, so that was a no, and if I left here someday, what would become of my relationships? Hikaku-san didn't look like she'd ever leave this place. What about Chiemi? But I wasn't counting my chicks before they hatched anyway. I did appreciate that Chiemi actually liked me this time too. I wasn't much help to her last loop, so I was kind of fixated on saving her in this one. But there was another way to look at this. There was a feeling born of a trip through hell with her last time, standing by her until the end, but the Chiemi from back then wasn't the same as the Chiemi from this loop. Any feelings I had for the previous Chiemi had nothing to do with this one. There was nothing more hollow than chasing after unrequited feelings, right? I'd had enough of thinking about that, it just made me feel empty inside. Time to review more important things, like the previous roles. Takumi Mura was the snake, Chikamochi Kamoshida and Meiko were the monkeys, Yasunaga Oribe and Tai Yamabaki were the wolves. Those were the only clear ones. Now for the rest. I don't think it's going to be the same people again. Since the spider was supposed to protect the snake, who died on the second day, it was safe to assume it was someone who died on the first. That was either Kanzo Makishima or Yoshitsugu Oribe, and I was pretty sure it was the former. I had no guesses for the crow though. The guardian didn't really get a turn in the spotlight last time. There was only one standard lynching after all. In fact, there were far more abnormal deaths. Though I had no idea if those were or were not covered by the crow's power to tell if the lynch victim was a wolf or not. If they were, then perhaps the crow was waiting for the chance to come out, but all who died were humans, and eventually they were out of the game. Or maybe it was someone who couldn't make good use of the power at all. Assuming Kanzo-san was a spider, then I had 7 suspects for the crow. I'm not reading out all of those names. Who's Yoshitsugu-kun? Honestly, I felt like he'd revealed himself as an owner of a guardian way before Takumi-san would. He was reckless and impulsive after all. Yunosuke seemed like a type to proudly reveal that he had a crow. It was his family's guardian beast after all. Or maybe he was using it to gather information on his own, so he could pull out a bunch of his own deductions all at once. No, he wasn't that stupid, surely. Also, he was given free rein until the wolves got to him on the final day. He had ample time to do something. Then Haru Makishima. She betrayed the humans and sided with the wolves, despite the fact it wouldn't save her life. Needless to say, that seemed insane. The great Lord Shinai came to her in a dream and told her the truth. What the hell? Who'd die for that? Was there some other way to create such madness? A method to create a murderer? Was there anything besides what Yasunaga-kun mentioned? I had no idea, but if there was, I really didn't think anyone with the guardian would fall victim to it. If Chiemi was the crow, I could hope she'd have confided in me about it. Ori Oribe, I had no idea. She'd been the only one killed the conventional way last time, but was never really given a chance to speak up. Even if she was, it was possible she'd chosen to keep silent and focus on killing everyone for her son, or she tried to become a shield for him. The old wolf guy made no sense at all. If he'd gotten a guardian, it likely would have just gone to waste. Finally, Rikaku-san. I had no idea what to expect from her. She was the only descendant of the Uematsu family and the current head, so perhaps she knew some secrets known only to the head family. However, from what I'd observed of her today, it really did seem like she'd just had a bad feeling and come to check. I didn't know how intelligent she was either. She did seem to have good intuition, but she was also a bit of a klutz. There was also the fact she'd been eliminated from the previous game due to some kind of strange corruption. Maybe she didn't have a chance to reveal that she possessed a guardian. That meant that the most likely candidates for the crow were Rikaku-san, Kaori-san, and the old wolf guy. What was most important here, though, was if those with guardians would be the exact same as last time. If there were, I'd have this feast in the bag. If, to use an extreme example, I went and silently took out Yasunaga-kun and Tai-san, I'd probably fall victim to the corruption, but the human side would win. Of course, the participants were different this time, so it wasn't guaranteed that we'd get the same guardians. But if Great Lord Shinai or whoever picked them had some sort of qualifications for his chosen, the addition of outsiders would change nothing. On the other hand, if our participation could change the guardian assignments, was it random, or was there some kind of pattern? Whichever it was, it would mean that there was no higher will intent on giving guardians to specific people. Whatever the case, it would help getting closer to the truth behind the feast. If I found out the rules behind the Guardian distribution, I could probably win without trying to read people's minds. The only problem was my whole looping thing. Nobody would believe me if I told them. I wouldn't blame them. If I went and said, this is how it was last time, so you'd evolve this time, everyone would think I was nuts. I had to look at this as nothing but a source of extra info to use to my advantage. And of course I couldn't sleep. What would happen to me if I spent the whole night awake? Was someone watching me? Did they know I wasn't sleeping? Would they come to kill me? That line of thinking made me feel like I was being watched. What about the locals? They already had the mists and the feast to fear. Could they sleep soundly? I know the old story said they should be able to, but...
兄ちゃん、春も幸せにして。
There was something wrong with the people of Yasumizu. They were normal in regular circumstances, no total idiots anywhere, and not all of them seemed like the sort to lose themselves in superstitious ramblings. However, certain situations seemed to act as a trigger, turning them completely irrational. The absolute extreme fear of the mist. A complete submission to the real story. The lack of aversion toward hanging people. Was that all part of the feast? If so, what kind of psychological systems were at work here? I couldn't understand. Things I couldn't understand scared me. Was there a limit to the extent I couldn't comprehend? What if it was just a huge, never-ending downward spiral of irrationality? If that was the case, it'd be pretty damn scary. What? Huh? Eh? What? My eyes were closed, but it was bright. That could only mean that morning had come. No, well, yes, but there was something more important. I'd actually closed my eyes and fallen asleep. I got to my feet. Sure enough, it was morning. I'd actually ended up sleeping. Well, that meant that since I completed my preparations, I was actually invited to the feast. That was proof that as long as you had a place to stay, you could participate in a feast even if you'd lived here only for a day. It was 6 o'clock right now. I'd gone to bed way too early, but that provided me a good night's sleep. I couldn't sense any beasts outside. Without any hesitation, I opened the door. Sure enough, there was the mist. Last time, the first one who came to me was Chiemi, but that was later than it was now. Was I supposed to wait before making a move? No. This was a chance to learn something I hadn't last time. I couldn't let this opportunity slip me by. Yasumizu was eerily silent. I couldn't see anything, my whole body was covered in cold mist, and I was all alone. It reminded me of my time wandering the endless riverbed before death. People despaired when they were cold, hungry, alone, and could barely see. This was unavoidable and not something I could win against. I had to find someone right away. Suddenly I heard an angry shout from nearby. It made me turn rigid, and then... Handsome Makishimashi came out of the mist, gun in hand.
おはようございます。
今起きたか。
ええ、特に何事もなく。
腹、見たか。
は？
使いの加護は腹に出る。
Oh yeah, Chiemi told me that last time. Also mentioned something about Meiko not being able to read it.
まだなら。
はあ、わかりました。
Acting like I didn't know what he was talking about, I returned to the hut. Man, that was close. I hadn't even considered the possibility that I'd have a guardian. Well, it was unlikely, but I checked just to be sure. I lifted up my t-shirt and exposed my stomach. Ha ha ha! What I saw almost made me shriek. I hadn't even noticed it. I didn't realize there was something like this on my body. It was drawn in a red fluid, most likely blood. And it was nothing that I've ever seen before. Also, there was some eerie text there.
鏡。いや、携帯で写真を。
I can't read it. After a bit of trial and error, I finally read what it said. The tower lookout, the snake. Find the lurking Yomi. Cleanse and purify or die. So this mark was the snake's. It clearly said the tower lookout. The description seemed faithful to the original source, and it had a certain aura about it. Find the lurking Yomi. The snake's role was to search for the Yomibito. Cleanse and purify or die. Man, not being roundabout at all, are we? Anyway, that meant the corruption would take me if I didn't wash it off, huh? I quickly grabbed the wet towel and washed off the freaky warning. It even smelled like blood. I didn't know what it belonged to though. If it were animal blood, I might have been in danger of catching something. Man, what were they thinking? Anyway, this snake of all things? It had belonged to Takumi-san last time. He quickly revealed it and, I assumed, the wolves used it to their advantage. After all, the snake was the human's only way of actively confirming who was a wolf or not. This made it even harder for me to die. And just like I thought yesterday, the rules had changed a lot. There was now no guarantee that Yasunaka-kun and Tai-san were wolves. They could easily be humans. The same went for everyone else. It was best to assume that I'd been sent back to square one on that front. Hello, good evening! Wait, how was I supposed to use the snake's power anyway? The blood letters only said that I was the snake and had to wash it off right away. Someone know? But if I went to ask, I'd basically be telling them I was the snake. Would there be an explanation during the first feast? I had no choice but to believe. For now, I would just return to the plaza. I walked through the mist as I called out. This time I had no problems meeting up with Kanzo-san.
Hi.
My mind stopped for a second. He looked away. Was that a leading question just now? If there was something on my stomach, it meant I had a guardian. I was meant to be a newcomer who didn't know anything. Wasn't it unfair to ask me that? If it actually said or even implied that there'd been something on my stomach, that would mean that I had a guardian. Or if I said there was nothing, that could be used against me further down the line, putting me at a disadvantage. If he was a wolf who knew the implications of this question... Then again, I felt like he retracted his question because he knew it could lead to that kind of misunderstanding. Milk chocolate! Did you know the newest streaming... did you know? Are you aware? Shit, I'd love to ask that, but I couldn't use knowledge I wasn't supposed to have.
Makishima-san でしたよね。もう一通り回られたんです。
That seemed like a yes to me.
みんな無事そうですか？
一人死んだ。
は？
待ってください。一体何が起きてるのかさっぱり。
騒ぐな。
I did not know it was streaming. Me either. What? Nue streaming? Who's Nue? What? Did you really just use the word so casually?
おとなしくせえ。わしはてめえを信じとらん。
He brandished his rifle again.
僕は何も知らない。何もしてない。
それは宴で決める。
He sure was assertive. Maybe he didn't have a guardian this time. This made me realize I could tell friend from foe by searching for differences in their behavior from last time around. For now though, I just had to make it through this awkward moment with Kanzo-san. You don't like sweet stuff? Yet you're here. Curious. Nah, I like milk chocolate more than I like dark chocolate. Soon enough, we were joined by the others. Tara-san, Takumi-san, Cody-san, Yoshitsugu-kun, the old wolf guy. Takumi-san and Kanzo-san then went to the Nosata mansion and the dorm, leaving me with just a woman, a child, and two elders. I'm not that old. I wasn't one of those old farts, damn it.
もしかして僕のことか？
他に誰がいいんだよ。
心外な。それでどうしたの？
てめえ、なんか知らねえの？
え、何かって？
こんな時に休みぞ送りになったんだ。自分だっておかしいと思うだろ。樋口のクソは何か言ってなかったのかよ。
いや、思いつかないね。
I played it off.
東京からの僕の不運は続いてるみたいだ。肌でわかるよ。尋常じゃない。
Chocolate sure doesn't like you. Ah.
イカれてるよ。この霧は。
I shouldn't be eating chocolate either, but it's good sometimes. He said that, but his tone wasn't as antagonistic as before. It actually felt somewhat friendly. I could only guess some act from yesterday warmed him up to me. A bit, anyway.
あんたはまた。
別に揉めてねえよ。つうか無理すんな。顔真っ青じゃねえか。
すみません、夫妻さん。とにかくおとなしくなさい。
構いませんよ。ところで、リカ子さんとメイコちゃんはまだでしょうか？
そうね。いつも朝はお早いけど。
長者のことなんざ知らね
え。よしくん、やめんかね。ちょっとお呼びしてこよう。
The relationships here really were complicated. Soon enough, Taya-san brought Rikaku-san and Meiko. As she entered the plaza, she looked out at our mist-covered faces. Upon seeing mine, she gasped, then gave me a very slight bow. Sucks. Meiko seemed in poor spirits. Oh no, it's gonna be a while until the DLC actually comes out. I haven't pre-ordered it yet. I don't like. I'm sorry. Do not see the point in the first wave literally just being a different hub. I will get it at some point, definitely for the story. I'm assuming it's going to be a story edition with wave 2, but just a hub. Yeah, but the lore, I mean, the lore is only coming with the second wave. It's not like it's going to go away.
そうですね。
てめえこれ、どの面下げて宴がどうとか言ってんだよ。
やめなさい、義継。すみません。力不足で。
Yeah, but money.
お兄ちゃん、怖い。
俺はてめえを認めてねえ。てめえだって長者の一人に違いねえし、腹の中で何考えてるかわかんねえんだ。
なぜそんなに敵視するんだい？それほどまでに長者は憎い存在なの？
The DLC was just being released in waves. Yeah.
当たり前だ。長者がいなきゃ。
Yeah, but $25 is still a bunch of money.
絶対化けの皮剥いでやっから。
Jujutsu Kansho was aggressive this time. Did he have a guardian? The sign of thinking felt dangerous. Making too many assumptions seemed more risky than not knowing anything.
お姉ちゃん。
Ikako-san was as inexpressive as always, but I could tell she was feeling depressed.
なんというか、大変ですね。
春明様。
She looked around in confusion before.
よくご無事でよかった。本当に。
She then gave me a smile.
いや、さすがに霧程度でどうこうなんてならないですよ。
You almost only play games for the lore. You're talking to someone who literally only plays story-based games. Like, come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
サラナがこの下を流れる川ですが、サラナガの霧は黄泉の容器と言われます。富士吉では昔から最大の強調と。
野里さんも霧が出ると必ず死人が出ると言っていましたね。
You're still waiting for that Elden Ring stream? I mean, Elden Ring has a bunch of lore as well. Also, I am not ever going to play those. The only like Souls type game I would ever play on stream is Bloodborne, because I have a funny little bet going on with a friend that if he draws me newer art in the Bloodborne world, that I will play Bloodborne for him. But I'm not going to play any of those games otherwise. You have to figure it out yourself. I mean, yeah, that's also fun. Personally, I'm not interested in FNAF though. She made a stern face, unlike any I'd seen on her. Blackboard still on just one. Well,
なんてことをお伝えになるのでしょう。
ああ、いえ、こんな霧だから事故が必ず。
Yeah, I tried playing Bloodborne once and I died in the very beginning to those dogs many times. Like the very first area.
それにしても。
It was nice knowing you.
休みずには今も皆様が住んでおられる。
Thank you for the pet.
僕は来てまだ1日ですが、リカコさんは長者の一員としては少し変わっておいでなのでしょうか。
Dark Souls 1 in your case. I mean, I know these games are not for me.
そのような。
いえ、
in a different way than, I don't know,
休みずに対する物言いが。
some funny little platformers that I've tried in my life, and I still somehow made it through despite sucking at platformers. But Souls games? Mm-hmm.
私は叱るべき敬意を払うべきと藤吉という村の存続は休みずによるところが
どういうことでしょう。詳しく聞きたいです。
いずれお聞かせします。
Listen, I'll have a funny little training arc where I learn how to speedrun a Souls game, and then I'm going to surprise all of you. Wouldn't that be that would be actually funny? That would be really funny. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna play this funny little game today. Huh?
私は休みずを守りたいのです。
Okay, good for you. Thus, Nikaku-san fell silent. Feeling a bit awkward, I resumed waiting. Soon enough, Takumi-san brought Kyonosuke to us. He immediately started worrying over Nikaku-san as expected, but she seemed unreceptive to him. I might have gotten in the way of his love story. It made me feel kind of bad. Eventually, Kanzo-san returned along with the students.
間宮さん、そこ足元気をつけて。
You know, listen, if I played Bloodborne, if that friend would make some art and I would be playing it, but with him as a helper, because otherwise we would just be seeing the very first 5 minutes of Bloodborne and nothing else. Genuinely. Shift through the map to the final boss and somewhat trigger an ending with a glitch. Yeah! Seeing Hisako Mamiya-san with them filled me with relief. Thus, I finally understand what would happen now. Ignoring everyone's gloomy faces, she forced a smile and greeted us like it was a normal morning. The inhabitants didn't respond. I also had a guess about what had happened, so I had trouble picking my words too. Yeah, well, you're still alive, but where's your friend? Did he not cleanse? Again, no one responded. Oh no. Kanzashi opened his mouth, taking it upon himself to say it. I could already hear some stifled sobbing. It was Haru-chan. Not only was she afraid, she'd also realized that a tragedy had occurred. Mamiya-san realized that something was wrong and was about to ask about it when... The crude old man just told her what was up. She instantly got lost her composure. The unnatural aura around her was suddenly starting to get to her. I raised my voice because Kanzushi reached for his gun again. No, I'm not raging. I'm not raging. I'm enjoying the fact that we're gonna get started with our second round. No, no rage. Kanzushi silently lowered the gun. You're not gonna get it anywhere. Can't wait for the Bloodborne stream. I'll ask him again whether he's gonna make that art. So we managed to technically get places for both of them to stay, but only she survived. That's a little sad. Bye bye. Thank you for coming by.
僕も行きます。あの人にはお世話になったから。ああ、
あと悪いが手借りる。
With the cleanup, I assumed.
わかりました。
私も行きます。メイコはここにいなさいな。
私も行く。
俺も行く。そんなもんでビビらね
くだらん。霧で迷って転びでもしたか。
Jesus Christ! At this point, half of the people involved are just gonna go, huh? We get so many volunteers that, besides the old people and Meiko, the only ones who ended up staying were Cody-san and Haru-chan, both of whom didn't look so good. Takumi-san led us uphill. Since we went through the field, some of us fell or got stuck, so we took a whole 10 minutes. Still, we arrived at the scene of the crime. What I saw there was almost exactly the same as what I saw last time. It was a brutalized corpse. It was close to the prefab, next to a waist-tall boulder, which did little to hide the large body. It was thoroughly destroyed. The entire frame had been torn apart and bent as if to systematically detach his muscles inside and bones from his body. The only things that hinted at who this once was were the scattered pieces of clothing and the impressive amount of flesh. Once again, Yudai Hashimotoshi failed to survive the first night. Place is closed because it's Sunday. Ooh. I'm sorry to hear that. As Takumi-san muttered to himself, Mamiya-san finally broke her disbelieving silence with a hysterical scream. Frankly, this is a very nice reaction because everyone else has become so detached, like emotionally detached to finding dead people. Her reacting like this is like, ah, yeah. This is usually what happens. You'll be okay, that's good. Mamiya stopped mid-sentence and began puking. She either screamed herself into vomiting or caught a direct glimpse of the corpse. I'm so thankful they don't include any sound effects. You know how some games, or movies are worse, but there's so many games who for some reason feel the need to include some vomiting and retching sounds when people are vomiting in the game. I'm like, don't do that.
Huh?
I asked him that while feigning anger and despair. I mean, people dying and people being brutally murdered are two different things, my guy. Nah.
嘘とはなんだ。今回だってなんだ。その狼が蘇ったなどというつもりか。
とぼけんじゃねえ。化け物も神様もそう簡単に出てたまるか。どうせ長者が獣でもけしかけたんだろうが。
おやめなさい。お二人とも。
Rikaku-san's faint yet stern voice cut the argument short. She then faced Hashimoto-san's body and lowered herself before it.
宴の支度をし損じられた。マロードをもてなすべき。私たちに帰する責任。
Around here, everyone dies by being murdered.
せめて安らかに。夜道を歩まれますよ。汚れは私が引き取る。
Rikaku-san then...
何を?
Rikaku-san was inching her face closer to the pile of flesh and bone when... Mamiya-san suddenly cut in, stopping her.
何してんだ、やめろ。止めないで。
Her voice and face were borderline demonic. None of us could bring ourselves to stop her. She leapt over to the corpse and, ignoring the blood, began sifting through the remains with her hands. I suddenly realized what she was doing. She didn't respond nor stop me. She completely lost her cool, but the madness was under control. It was clear this wasn't some unreasonable panic. After all, he must have had it. I began helping her roughly, searching the body.
何してるの？
カメラだよ。この人なら何かを撮っているかもしれない。
あ。
The kill was the same as last loop. The body was torn apart with no rhyme or reason. I felt something stiffen on my hand. It was hair. I was close to the head.
深く考えるな。
His camera must have been on his neck. I could follow this hint and I felt a cord on my hand. It was a thoroughly broken, expensive-looking digital camera. It must have cost a fortune, but Mamiya-san didn't care and just opened it.
化け物が化け物なんているもんですか
She muttered that in delirium, took out its memory card, threw the camera away, and ran off.
どこ行くの？もう、匠兄ちゃん、あとお願い。
The two disappeared into the mist.
なんかわかるか？
大したことは。ただ、やっぱり、プレハブにはトイレがないんだ。
Oh, so he had to leave to take care of his business. He didn't know how important the preparations were, so this result was obvious. I should have been the one to stay in the prefab. He died because of me, but I couldn't let myself wallow in regret. I see. So, as soon as we get wherever the fuck key, what key was it? 13? As soon as we get key 13, we're gonna have to try to be the ones to stay in the prefab. Ikeko-san approached the body again, but Takumi-san put his hand on her shoulder.
あんたもそういうのはいらねえ。
しかし
長者のわけわかんねえもんに頼りたくねえし、頼らせたくねえ。そのうちもっとひどいことになる。植松は貧乏くじだろうが、手だけ合わせとけ。
Takumi-san's tone was neither calm nor sympathetic. I had no idea what he meant by short end of the stick. But for some reason I felt like he was protecting her from something.
わかりました。
Ikeko-san did as she was told and put her hands together before chanting some sort of prayer. Yoshitsugu-kun watched her with a scowl.
リカコさん。
Inosuke she missed his chance to talk to her, so he was just frozen in place.
やす、よし、近持ち。みんな連れて戻ってろ。手洗って、飯の支度だ。
わかった。命令してんじゃねえよ。
りっちゃん、行こう。
野里さん、行きましょう。
別に案内などいらん。行きましょう、リカコさん。
Thus they all left.
悪いな、不妻子。
いえ、このくらい頼ってください。
Takumi-san and I began cleaning up Hashimoto-san's body. We couldn't remove the door, so we carried him on a board from the destroyed construction site. And so we dropped him into Sadanaga. I listened carefully, and I thought I actually heard a splash this time. So there was a bottom after all. Then why have we gotten lost on that one loop? Thinking of that possibility, I parted ways with Takumi-san, then returned to my hut and washed the blood off. I went to the plaza again. The people had gathered around the dining hall. They were handing out food apparently.
あんた、手は洗ったんかね。
No, clearly I'm going to touch food and eat it after handing the dead remains of someone brutally murdered. Duh.
はい。汚れも落としました。
そうね。お疲れ様。
Tao-san seemed to be a bit soft on me than before.
若い人は食べといで。さもなきゃ、もたんからね。
そうしましょうか。山脇さんは？
あたしゃ胸がいっぱいでね。
食べられそうなら食べに来てください。
うん。
Giving a vague response, Tao-san looked up at the boulder next to us. I followed her gaze and
これは
saw the blood sign from last time.
あれは黄泉から戻った狼様の印だから。
Two wolves
あれ
again,
が2つあ
okay.
るってことは2人だってことだと思う。
That was what Shiemi had told me last time, and now...
狼様は3人おる。
Oh! Yeah, there were 3 of these weird diamond worlds.
どういうことです？
後で教えてあげるからね。
わかりました。ではまた。
A bit overwhelmed, I walked away. The number of people had increased. I was told there could be 3 wolves at most, and that was exactly what we got this time. Why? What caused this change? There were several differences from last time, but which one of them did it? Whatever it was, I could assume that knowing the roles from last time was much of an advantage. Outside the dining hall, Kanzo-san was sitting on the ground and drinking something from a large bowl. He looked up at me and
しっかり食え。
said those code words before focusing on his bowl again. He didn't trust me, nor did he antagonize me more than necessary. That was pretty reasonable, actually.
おかえりなさい。
Hi!
不妻子さん。
Inside the building, I found the students Uematsu-san, Meiko, Kinosuke-shi, and Kaori-san. Well, there was an old wolf guy too, but he was just staring at an empty bowl in the corner of the room.
すみません。
Thank you for the pen hydrate time!
とんでもない。匠さんを手伝ってくれてありがとう。
大したことじゃないですよ。千恵美ちゃんと間宮さんは？
記者様が カメラの中を見るとかで部屋にこもっておいでです。芹沢様はその服を洗濯されるとかで。
Made sense. Mamiya-san was really bloody. Tori-san gave me a bowl and I took one of the empty
お
seats.
疲れ様です、夫妻さん。
君こそ、安永くん。
もう名前覚えてもらえたんだ。
Yeah, I'm not going to forget your name. Oh wow. That wasn't enough to hint I was looping, was it? I took a pair of chopsticks and ate up. It was a simple meal of some boiled vegetables and meat.
ごめんなさいね、こんなもので。昨日の仕込みの流用だけど、あんまり無駄にはできないでしょ。
I will never get over people being like, oh, I'm sorry, it's nothing big, it's just leftovers from yesterday. Like, there's nothing wrong with eating food from the day before.
食料、どれくらいあります？
冷蔵庫が止まっちゃったから、牛乳やお肉はもうあまり持たないけど、お米と野菜は心配しないでいいわよ。
Oh, I didn't think about it last time, but at the very least, this awful situation didn't come with a food shortage. Perhaps that was a silver lining.
電気がつかないことで、他に問題は？
どっちかっていうと、ガスの方が心配だわ。そろそろボンベ交換の時期だから。山もぶっちぎれだね。近持ちくん、汚い言葉は使わないの。
Listening to the strangely mundane exchange, I resumed eating. It was actually good. It didn't look like it was, so I felt like I had to close my eyes. Unlike the soup I was given in Kami Fujiyoshi, it was well salted and had a rich taste. The meat had to be the game killed by Kanzashi and gutted by Chiyomi. It didn't reek much and had a simple flavor. It was probably venison? I'd consider this revenge for the time they made a fool out of me in the mountains. In terms of the amount of meat and seasoning, the people here seemed to be eating better than in Kami Fujiyoshi. Was it just my imagination? After emptying my bowl, I was offered some more and gladly took it. It was best to eat whenever I had the chance.
よくもそう。ここの食事に簡単に馴染めるものだね。
Kinosuke suddenly commented, I thought he was being sarcastic, but his tone didn't seem antagonistic.
食べないんですか？
家に食料があるのでね。正直、町暮らしが長いと、ここの食事はどうにも味気なく思えるものだよ。
By local, he probably meant Fujiyoshi as a whole, not just
そ
Yasumisu.
れに、今はあまり食べる気にならん。
おっちゃん、食えば？最後になるかもしれないし。
おい、モッチー。
Haruchan had been completely pale since I'd arrived, but she suddenly covered her mouth and ran off to the bathroom. She'd forced herself to eat what she'd been given, but the stress had left her unable to keep it down.
近持ち。貴様は人の気持ちを介さぬと拝借されたことから、何も学ばんのかね。
おっちゃんに言われたくない。謝ってくる。
He went to the bathroom too, leaving the rest of us feeling kinda
こ
awkward.
の後、何があるんですかね？
古臭い、寄り合いを開くのだろう。あれをやったのが誰か。
決めてどうするんです？
大丈夫ですよ、夫妻さん。
Yasunagi-kun joined the conversation with an unnaturally bright
理
tone.
不尽なことはきっと起きません。
Yeah, we'll just hang the person who we think is responsible.
お、なんか頼もしいな。
ええ、大丈夫です。
Was he a wolf this time too? As I frowned and thought to myself, Takumi-san joined us.
匠さん。
香織さん、大盛りで頼むわ。キヨ、しっかりしてっか。
気軽に呼ぶな。
お、夫妻子はしっかり食ってんな。
おかげさまで、ごちそうさまでした。
たく、俺より先に香織さんの飯なんて贅沢なやつだぜ。うまかったろ。
ええ。お嫁にもらうなら、こんな方がいいですね。
Yo!
Te me. まさか香織さんを。
あれ、なんだろうこの空気。
After playing it
ところ
off,
で匠さん、
I called to Takumi in a low voice.
なんだ、
宴はいつからですか
9時がおやっさんの指定。
Aw, man.
わかりました。
There wasn't even an hour before we would begin discussing who to kill. Takumi-san began eating and everyone fell silent, so I went and moved seats.
大丈夫ですかおじいさん。
It was the same as always. Man, just what would we do if we had a guardian?
困りましたね。来た次の日に霧に巻かれるなんて。 おじいさんは安水のどの辺に住んでるんです？
This wasn't even a conversation.
すみません。お邪魔だったみたいですね。
ここは安全じゃ。
はい。
ここが一番安全じゃ。じゃから俺はここにおる。
Safe.
ああ、この食堂がってことですか？
No response. Were we having a dialogue or was he just muttering things that made no sense? Was he talking about Yasumisu? That couldn't be it. After all, this was the least safe place in Fujiyoshi. I thought that he had a reason why he found it safe, but whatever it was, it couldn't save him from dying last time. In the end, it wasn't safe for him either. Something seemed off, but I couldn't put my finger on what. I'd somehow lost my right to sit next to him and began searching for a new seat as I waited. The clock seemed to move strangely slow. A chair next to me was pulled a bit. Anyway, where could I sit? Our eyes met. Anyway, where could I sit? Do you know? She expressed it with words. Anyway, where could I... Shut the fuck up!
まさかの方向からツッコミが。
誰がツッコミかね。日が浅くて敬うべき相手がわからんとしても、奥ゆかしい女性の気遣いは受けるのが礼儀だろう。
Shut the fuck up!
おお、さっきのが奥ゆかしかったかはともかく、主張自体には反論できない。
そうだろう。ふざけてるのかね。
美香子さん、今日もお綺麗ですね。お話終了。それはともかく野里先輩、さっきのはもしやノリですか？先輩
Why is he a senpai suddenly?
長者を適当にいじるな。
お姉ちゃん、なんか変。
すごい。このメンツで漫才が成立してる。
変わった野郎だな。
久石さん、面白い方ね。
香織様、この顔どうすか？
面白いですよ、匠さん。
Kyonosuke eventually shouted the standard, "I'm not staying with someone so ill-bred," and left. Well, Takumi-san went with him, so I doubted Kyonosuke would end on lucky victim number 2 as per horror cliches. It came back to me. During the previous feast of the Yomi Purge, Chikamochi Kamoshida and the old wolf guy had been killed, probably by something other than corruption. The suspects from back then who were now around the dining hall were... No, if it meant finding out the truth, I could just leave that. I had to switch gears. Anyway, I sat down next to Rikaku-san, who'd said ho, so many times she'd actually gone limp. No. So that was my name now, huh? I gave up on correcting her.
やあ、メイコちゃん。ちょっとお姉ちゃん借りるね。
話されるんですか？それじゃあ、こっちで遊ぶ？メイコちゃん。
Yasunari-kun took Meiko with him, giving us a chance to talk.
ひどい人。
美人に言われると嬉しい言葉ですね。
I was actually starting to find these reactions adorable. I could enjoy bullying a cute old woman. You're awful! Haruaki, you're awful. This was a rare opportunity and I appreciated it immensely.
というわけで、なんでしょう。
私はとても
何にです？
最悪の時にあなた方を
Oh yeah, well, should have happened.
それは仕方ないじゃないですか。霧が出るなんて予想はできない。
いいえ、すべては私たち藤吉のものの最初の在庫に。
God, if you only you spoke a little more
最
quickly.
初の在庫。
はい。この村は神の眷属を殺めて。
The ancient story of killing the wolves, huh?
詳しい話を聞きたいですね。
この後、おそらく山脇様から説明があることでしょう。
山脇さんから。
はい。山脇様が休みずの名代でいらっしゃいますので。
名代、地主とかではなくですよね。
ええ。 安水の土地はすべて村
Still need to manage it. Oh my god. This is their screen. That's the way it is. I'm sorry.
そういうわけでご
I'm
ざい
not
ます
gonna
か。
let her voice lines go all the way anymore. It's taking too long. Instead of turning bashful, she actually glared at me this time. This was pretty good too. That aside, I now knew how it was. The eldest was the representative, and with that, she was in charge of the feast tutorial.
ちなみにマロードっていうのは何か来訪者をもてなす文化みたいなものがあるのですか。
はい。そもそもかつての藤吉は遠方の狩人を村人はマロード
Like, literally, she even has ... in her text several times. Jesus Christ, lady. That made sense. If the belief itself was the village's main draw, I could understand why this unique religion survived for so long. I wanted to get some certain details, but it didn't seem like something I should ask about while alone.
しかし、そっか。リカコさんが僕に優しくしてくれるのも僕がマロードだからなんです。
いえ、そんなことは。
No, she's nice to you because she is, for some reason,
それとも怪我をなさった時にその場にい
maybe
たから。
falling in love.
それは。はい。感謝しております。でも、理由が必要でしょうか。
いえ、そんな。てっきり何か特別な理由があるのかなって。
あったらどうな。
嬉しいかもしれない。
The adorable woman hung her head down, cheeks reddening. I was the one playing around with her, but it actually made me feel kinda bashful. Perhaps I had to be more serious about her feelings. How would I do that, though? Forget it. There wasn't a time for that. I was given an important role, so I had to find a way to keep the others alive.
そろそろ行きましょうか。
Tori-san's voice prompted everyone to rise from their seats. Then we wordlessly began to leave the dining hall. It didn't feel like an emergency, but this was the end of our normal everyday life. We already had people at the hall. Kanzushi, Takumi-san, Kyonosuke-shi, Yoshitsugu-kun, and Chiemi and Mamiya-san were here too. Mamiya-san looked depressed. The panic attack seemed to have subsided, but that didn't mean she'd come around to all this. Chiemi whispered to me that they couldn't read the data they picked up, so we had no clues from the camera. The wolf guy, the students, Haruchan's face was still pale. Kaori-san, Rikako-san, Meiko, and I all went inside. Something strange happened then. As they went in, they hid their faces with both hands and lowered their heads. It was a really weird gesture. I'd actually seen it last time, though. Taya-san had done this while facing a boulder when prayer to Shinai was playing over the speakers. There'd been a strange veil-like thing on her face. Must have been another local custom. For now, I just followed their lead. Everyone sat in a circle. It seemed they were seating in order of age, starting from the far end.
山脇様、私はメイコのそばにおります。
ええですよ。
It wasn't enforced, though.
妻子と記者の姉ちゃんは
下座でえ
え。わかりました。
I sat down closest to the exit, then Mamiya-san sat down beside me.
いいんですか？
私、ここの住人じゃないから。
The tone was cold.
何が始まるんでしょうか？
知らない。
She was whispering things like, why did this happen, or this just can't get any worse, and I couldn't see a single trace of the vigor from yesterday.
これでみんなか。
We should be getting a different version of the CG now. Himawaki-san entered last and closed the door, plunging the room into darkness. Mamiya-san gasped and Meiko let out a quiet scream, but that was it. No one here from Yasumizu was shook. Then there was a click of a switch being turned on, lighting up the bare light bulb above. Yeah! Oh, fun! Now the far right doesn't look as empty anymore. The lighting was poor, making everyone's illuminated faces stand out more. It felt unnatural, like a whole other world.
みんな座りんさった。読み意味の宴を始めましょうね。
And so it began. Urged by Yamawaki-san, Rikako-san, as though understanding her implications, went deeper into the room, and after a bit of messing around, returned to us without tripping. In her hands, she held a labelless bottle.
新内様に献上されたおみきです。マロードから順に回し飲みしてください。
Rikaku-san sat down next to Mamiya-san and gave her an aged sake
こ
cup.
れ飲まなきゃダメですか？
はい。汚れを遠ざけてくれます。
Mamiya-san didn't reply but still took it. Rikaku-san then filled it with sake.
これを全員で飲むの？
いくら飲んでいただいても結構です。お酒はたくさんあります。
Isako-san cleared out the cup, smelled it, then just drank it all down. She sure looked like she could hold her liquor.
普通のいいお酒よ。銀醸化がする。
Impressed by her professionalism, I took the cup from her.
春秋様は飲めますか？
どんと濃いです。
With a light-hearted reply, I let her fill the cup, then drank it all. Yeah, it was actually pretty good. It seemed like a luxury even. I had no idea how such a poor settlement got their hands on it. It didn't seem like I could ask for more, so I just gave the cup to Meiko. Rikaku-san gestured for her to just pretend to drink it. Same for the students. The sake went through several people without anyone
こ
drinking.
こから大人ね。いただきます。
And she and me emptied it the moment she got it. Rikaku-san, who'd been sitting next to her if it wasn't for Meiko, then took a sip herself, followed by Kaori-san until Kinosuke finally emptied what was left. Takumi-san drank 2 full cups, saying, "Some feast, huh? You got to drink sake during the day." Then the elders each emptied a cup. That was everyone, so Rikaku-san took the bottle and cup and returned to her place.
一通り回ったか。耐えば説明せ。
伝承を知らない方もおられます。すべて説明されるがよろしいかと。
そうですね。それじゃあお話ししましょうね。
Finally.
神内様は山の神。大昔この村ができた時は神内様の一
I like the drawings, they're very cute.
狼様じゃった。狼様は他のお守り
They're really
様、
cute.
蛇様、猿様、カラス様、雲様らと
読み人何？
死んだ人、生き返った人よ。
怖い。
大丈夫、私がいるわ。
狼様は今も上富士吉の神内明神に祀られとる。じゃが安水には別の話が伝わって。
Look at the adorable illustration of this tale of murder and deceit. Yeah!
狼様は確かに人を助けたが、人を
You gotta admit though, the drawings are cute. Even if it is about, ooh, killing people. Yay!
じゃから人は蛇様、猿様、カラス様、雲様に頼み込んで狼様を騙したんじゃ。
Rikaku-san had called it Yasumi's original sin. Last time, Chiemi was the one to tell me. Everyone living here knew it surely. And since Kinosuke and Rikaku-san knew it, the village chats knew it as well. Kamifujiyoshi's people, though, just continued to revere the Okami-sama, the wolves.
人は宴を開いて狼様にたらふく酒を振る舞った。他のお守りにしきりに酒を勧めるものだから狼様は大いに酔っ払った。やがて狼様が眠ったところを人は寄ってたかって運び皿長に放り投げて殺してしもうた。それから藤吉の者はますます栄えたが時折黄泉から狼様が落ちてきて人を喰らうようになった。狼様は人に化けておられる。じゃから人は狼様を見つけくくって亡きにせねばならんのよ。しかし一日にくくれるのは一人。それが神内様の決めた掟。じゃからこうして集まって亡きにする一人を決める。それを読み意味の宴と言った。夕霧が立つのは狼様のお越しの合図じゃからみんな支度をする。風呂を浴びて一人一つの家に閉じこもってきちんと寝ることじゃ。それもまた神内様の掟。 そうでない者は汚れを受ける。親内様の神罰じゃ。お姉ちゃん、書くのはやめて。
Young lady, can you please stop writing? Nope. Mami-san was taking notes. She suddenly put away her notepad and I couldn't read her expression at all.
わからんところは教えてあげるからね。ともかくも、夕霧の日、親内様は汚れをお下しになった。そして置き場に、よもつ狼様の印が描かれておった。3つ。
遮ってすみません。置き場とは？
安水に点在する岩石のことだ。人工物と思われるが、由来は不明だ。
We already know all this though.
安水のものは、あれは
We, the player.
敬うべきものだと教わります。
かつて水場ができる前は、岩の上で火を焚いたことから、置き場と呼ぶのだと、そんな話もあります。
That seemed like a weirdity to me, but I just kept listening.
安水はね、貧しいところよ。土も悪いし、日も当たらん。獅子は多いが、取るのはいつも。
Again, I spot the difference alongside. Yeah, I know. But still, it does make sense, obviously, that we're getting everything explained, and it is different this time around because we're actually, like, actively there for the original explanation and don't have to rely. What's her face? The other girl to explain it all to us again, but still.
なるほど。それで印っていうのは？
ひし形に渦のようなやつですね。
そう。あれが3つ。
3 wolves, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it's none of the 2 people originally, so it's not her and it's not Yasunaga-kun either.
なんでそんなことがわかるんです？
And one more person.
なんですか？ここじゃ。
山祭り言うてね。毎年お守りの格好をした身車様方が村中を練り歩く行事。そこで狼様の人数が似たようなやり方で知らされるのよ。
That matched what Shimiya told me last loop, down to the part that there were a maximum of 3 wolves.
なんで3人なのかしら？
親と子なんじゃと。
I myself had already imagined something like that, and it turned out I was on the mark. It didn't seem all that important though. After all, the wolves didn't have that man of blood relationship last time.
とにかく、私も信じがたいけどね。
2 parents and a child. If you're talking about actual parents though, we don't have that many here.
それが、安水の者が長者の皆々様によくしていただいている理由。あたしらの責務じゃからね。
Yoshitsugu-kun clicked his tongue and Yasunaga-kun calmed him down. Takumi-san furrowed his brow as expected. The village hats, kind to Yasumisa inhabitants, the exact opposite was true and many seemed to reject her words. However, she got the story across and since no one pointed out any problems, it was probably completely right.
藤吉という村の存続は安水によるところが大きいのですから。
I also came to understand those words. Yasumisa existed to be the first line of defense if the wolves returned. The people here weren't some venerable soldiers though, they were more like sacrifices. In the Shinai phase, Sadanaga was the entrance to Yomi, so by letting someone live nearby, they could stop the resurrected wolves via the feast. In Yamawaki-san's story, this duty was something that Kami Fujiyoshi's family had rewarded in some way. This wasn't the time to focus on the minor inconsistencies though, there was something more important. I had to listen and see how accurate the rules she presented would be. Keeping my mouth shut, I waited until she'd gone over everything regarding the rules. Then I considered it all. We had these among us. 3 wolves, a snake, 2 monkeys, a crow, and a spider. The snake could write down the name of a still living person and place it by the pillow before bed to find out what they were. The monkeys, upon receiving their guardians, would be informed about who the other monkey was. The crow would wake up to find out whether the person lynched the day before was a wolf or a human, and the spider could write down the name of a still living person and place it by their pillow before bed to protect them from the wolves. The powers of these guardians were given out with no regard for the blood of the families they were supposedly protecting. The powers were to be used to discuss and lynch someone each day. There were 3 wolves, they would brutalize one of the humans every night. The wolves had to be purged before they killed all the humans. If you broke the rules, the god of the mountain would bring forth the corruption, a supernatural death, upon you. Once the explanation was over, the room was filled with the sounds of discussion, but there was still something I had to confirm. I opened my mouth.
タイバー、ちょっと待って。まだわからないことがある。
But Yasunagi-kun was faster.
なんね。
狼様は必ず一晩に一人だけ血祭りにするんだっけ？
そうよ。
それはどうして？
神内様のお膝元じゃ。よもつ狼様も神内様の言う通りにせんといかん。
神内さんはどうしてそんな決まりを狼に与えたん？
それは計り知れんね。
あともう一つ。雲の加護で一人を守ったら、狼様は他の人を狙えるの？
それはできんよ。雲の加護が狼を止めれば、その夜人の夢には必ず守られるそうじゃ。
I mean, what would the point be?
なぜそんなことを知ってるの？
Right? What would the point of the protection be if they could just change it once they realized, oh, this person's protected tonight, we'll just choose someone else? Ouch.
それは私が大昔に私のおばあさんに。
タエバーは読み意味の宴に参加したわけじゃないんだよね。
His strong tone made everyone
おい、
freeze.
ヤス、一体何なんだよ。
霧が出るたびに宴があるなら、誰かは宴に出たことがあるってことだよね。
He is acting very different for the first time.
僕の覚えてる範囲じゃ、8年くらい前に一度。
兄ちゃん、やめてよ。
Haru-chan raised her voice and attracted everyone's attention.
やめてよ。思い出したくない。
でも、ハルちゃん。
ヤス、わしが後で聞く。あん時には、せがれと嫁が死んだ。春に聞かせんでもええ。
おじいちゃん。
So that's how it was.
上の土砂崩れの現場見たか？ありゃ8年前に野里が手入れたら崩れて、そのまんまになってる。
It was all coming together. The landslide and Haru-chan's parents' deaths both happened 8 years ago, when there was a mist.
あたしは休みずにおらんかったよ。覚えとらんかいね。あんたらがお泊まり学校に行っとる手伝いで、あたしは今回が初めてよ。あん時に宴があったのかもし。でも、あたしのおばあさんは宴に出たことがあったんかもしれんね。
そう。
Yasunagi couldn't back down, but didn't seem all that convinced. I was like questions how the rules of the feast could be passed down so perfectly through nothing but word of mouth. After all, rejecting those rules meant death. What if there were gaps in what we'd just been told? Those who'd never heard of these rules or participated in the feast wouldn't have a clue. From what I knew, Tai-san didn't mention the important rules just now. The wolves actually couldn't kill more than one person. If the spiders successfully stopped the wolves, they couldn't choose any of the sacrifices for the night. The guardians were written in blood and you couldn't show yours to anyone. The first 2 were pointed out by Yasunagi-kun, but the last one, the thing I heard from Kanzo-san, wasn't mentioned yet. I wasn't too confident in this method of conveying the rules. If this was the way it had been passed down over the course of the feast's long history, it seemed to me that vital information would have been left out like this, resulting in everyone dying through unintended rule-breaking long ago. That would have ended the tradition, and the fact that it hadn't happened meant there might have been other ways of conveying information. In particular, they hadn't mentioned anything about the way the guardians were given. Leaving out the part about how they revealed through blood text seemed particularly risky. After all, it was possible that you could sleep in and someone could come in and see it without you realizing it, or you could roll around in a bad way and rub it out. Well, if they said it was some supernatural blood that didn't fade so easily, I'd have no idea what to make of that. There was also the possibility that you could walk around with a text on your stomach without realizing it was there. It took Kanzo-san pointing it out for me to go back and check it. I'd have liked to ask more about it, but that was the same as telling the wolves I had a guardian. What a predicament. But it didn't seem like I had any time to think about it.
酒飲んでクソババアの話聞いて一人選んで殺せっつうのかよ。誰をどう選べっつんだよ。
A reasonable question.
昔話が本当なら、この中の何人かがすでに死んでて入れ替わられてるってことなのかな。
そん
な。あるわけねえだろ、そんなもん。
Takumi-san had no patience for such superstitions.
どうせこれも長者どものせいだ。霧の間に何人かぶっ殺して俺らを参らせようって魂胆だろ。
ムロ様、長者を何だと思ってるのかね。
Horrible people.
時代遅れの頭腐った下道だぞ。否定できるか？あ？
でもどうやったらあんな殺し方ができるっていうのさ。
それは知らねえけどよ。
匠、なんだって関係ねえ。ほっときゃ狼はみんな殺す。狼は宴でくくる。他の手はねえ。
おやさん。
Saying that at this point was pretty much an admission that he'd been in a feast before. However, his sternness made it hard for anyone to point that out. And having experienced a feast or two before was actually an advantage in this situation anyways. After all, everyone would want to benefit from his knowledge and experience.
カンちゃん、どうやってくくるもんを決めればいいのかね。
Imabaki-san's question made everyone look at Kanzo-san's face. You could tell how much they trusted him.
おやさん。
おじいちゃん。
おい、兄ちゃん、夫妻子言うたか。
Me?
なんでしょ
う。死んでくれんか。
Huh? My mind came to a halt for a moment and I couldn't find how to respond.
上松の。若えのにもう一杯ついでやれ。
牧島様。
ええから次へ。
Ikaku-san argued no further and brought me the cup and the sake.
飲まれない方が。
大丈夫ですよ。いただきます。
I took the cup and she filled it up.
どういうことですかね。
I drank it all down, then looked over everyone's faces. They lowered their gazes or looked away. Adults, children, the elders, even Shiemi. No one besides Kanzoshi looked into my eyes. I could see how it was.
誰か死なねばなら。皆が納得した。
Huh?
そうせねば。
I mean, yeah, but
一日たりとも無駄にはできん。じゃが。
Are you stupid?
誰も怪しくはねえ。一人死ねばわかることがある。
I understood now. He wanted to start off by unmasking the crow. My death at the tree would be a chance for him to show himself, since I'd know for certain whether I was a human or wolf. Kanzo-san really did know how the feast worked. He understood that victory depended on those with guardians. And since I was new here, I was easy to sacrifice. It would preserve the group's unity and mental health. I could tell that they would tolerate me being the one to hang. However, I couldn't let that slide. My current objective was to survive and escape, not to mention I was a snake. My death would be really bad for the humans. However... our fake backstories biting us in the ass now. What a good scenario. If I said I didn't want to die anymore, they probably wouldn't suspect me, but it wouldn't be good in the long run. If they saw me as pathetic, I'd lose popularity and my word would start to mean less. The settlement was in danger. Kanzoshi was trying to take control of the situation, and everyone was okay with it. If my words started meaning less to them, I'd be at a disadvantage, creating a situation where I, like the outsider I was, could be killed easily. My only option was to express that I was a person who shouldn't die, but be roundabout while doing it. However, that could make me look dangerous and make it more likely for them to see me as a wolf.
しかし。
いただきましょ
う。Oh, so another reason he was making me drink was to get me drunk, making me less resistant to being hanged. Well thought out. I couldn't get drunk from this though, what a predicament. I had no choice but to man up. Hisako Mamiya cut me off. This wasn't too bad, so I shut up and let her talk.
みんなこれでいいの？だとすれば、こんな茶番付き合ってられない。
間宮さん。
あなたおかしいと思わなかった？あのタイミングでタイヤがパンクして、次の日にこんな目に遭ってるのよ。まさかそんな前時代的なって思ったけど、これはよそ者を略して殺そうって風習なんじゃないの？
それは違う。
Takumi-san's expression changed as he cut her off.
言いたいことはわかるが、本当に偶然だ。
I mean, no, the tires bursting was not accidental, but...
でも、今の不妻子君への物言いじゃ、次に水を向けられるのはきっと私でしょ。
そんなことはねえし、不妻子をやるってのは。
匠。
おやっさん、そんなやり方じゃまずい。本当怪しいやつを。
Thank you, Mamiya-san.
全員怪しくねえ。だから全員怪しい。話し合いで
Yeah, talking is not gonna help in a game that is about communication. Mm-hmm.
関係ねえのよ。読み耳の宴には。
The oldly robust man stood up and spoke aloud.
化け物はこん中におる。この場じゃ平気な顔をして、それが読み耳の宴よ。人情じゃ勝てん。
は？化け物？じじいとうとうボケやがったか？あ？
よしすぐお願い。やめて。
ババアは化け物なんて信じるのかよ。俺は信じねえぜ。姉ちゃんの車に釘巻いたやつのこと
釘を巻いた？
最近大工仕事なんかなかっただろ。釘買う金もねえようなところだぜ。わざと決まってんだ。
少女のせいだって言うのか。
Listen, as long as I don't think it was us, I don't care.
他に何があんだよ。あの連中が人死にが見てえからって。
Social deduction games, Werewolf Town of Salem, Mafia Secret, Russian, Austrian dude I don't want to bring up. Why is it called that anyway?
馬鹿げている。長者はそんなに暇ではない。
若えのは樋口が差し向けたな。
No, this was bad.
樋口からなんか聞いてねえか。
Takumi-san, Yoshitsugu-kun, and even Mamiya-san stared at me.
え？妻子よ。
They now thought I could have been sent here by the village heads as an agent of theirs. That was a really good script. Especially since I actually was the one who burst those tires. Making one person secretly dug was hilarious. Ah, okay. Classic.
間違ってたらどうするの？山がすべて許すとでも言うんですか？
許されようがなんじゃろうが、狼くくって休みずを
Wouldn't it be funny if Kanzo was actually a wolf this time?
まあ、夫妻子のことは深くは聞かん。記者の女も悪いようにはしねえ。じゃが、一人死なねば話が進まん。女子供をくくるのは夢見が悪かろう。
A child could very well be a wolf. That's stupid.
わしはそれを頼む。
じゃあ私が代わりにくくられる。
Well, that was unexpected. Everyone stared at the stone-faced Chiemi.
私はこんな卑怯な方法でできたばかりの隣人を殺そうとしてるこの安水の空気が大嫌いだ。どうしても一人分の死が必要なんなら私でいいでしょ。迷惑いっぱいかけたお返しにご奉仕しちゃうよ。
知恵ねえ。何を言ってるんだよ。
やすくん、私ね、さっき一瞬思っちゃったんだ。それで肝臓じいちゃんが春明さんに水を向けた時、それはマシかもって一瞬でもそう思った。私の中の安水を許せないから。だからとりあえずで殺すなら私を殺してよ、肝臓じいちゃん。
知恵ねえ、やめようよ。
そうだよ。その身代わりが知恵ねえじゃなくたって、その
He didn't respond. His face was a total blank. No, he actually seemed slightly vexed.
芹沢様のおっしゃる通りです。理由なき死をマロードに求めるなど、間宮様のように疑われて仕方ないと思わないのですか。
ならおめえが身代わりになれや、長者様よ。
わしはそれでも構わん。
何をバカなことを。夢見の守り手たる植松家の最後のお一人だぞ。
てめえは黙ってろや、青病天。
確かに私は過去もなく皆様の邪魔になっていることでしょう。ただこの子のことが
She just revealed that she has no guardian.
ガキを出しにして命乞いか。
義継、お前ちょっと黙ってろ。
いい子ぶってんじゃねえぞ兄貴。あいつらのせいでおふくろは。
植松さんは関係ない。これ以上母さんを
How much murder have I missed? Not too much.
安永、義継。
The big guy is dead, but no one else yet. I was at my limit. Though Kansa-san's idea was reasonable, it was possible he too was being swayed by antagonism toward the village heads. If they moved based on that or just some sort of hatred, everyone would just become more emotional. People became wolves without any regard for bonds and relationships. I knew that well. That was why I couldn't let the feast take that turn and become heavily controlled by outside factors. There was also the fact that I wasn't about to just accept death. Then, couldn't I let the volunteers die instead? Yeah, I don't remember how long ago the cameraman died.
Quick hello! Quick hello to you as well, Cindy.
I wasn't fond of that idea. You oh! On the first day? I might have underestimated the Feast of the Yomi Purge. I couldn't control it at all. There were too many wills clashing from too many people. Surprised by Yasunaga-kun's words, I felt silent and shot him a sidelong glance.
あなた僕は猿の加護を受けました。一番嫌な加護だ。山は一体何を
Relaxing Sunday.
母さん。兄貴、それ本当なのか
Wait, if he's one monkey, what's the other one?
本当だよ、義継。肝臓さん、僕も狼を排除することは絶対必要だと思う。けど。I mean, it's nice that we know he's human now, but also that's a big target on his back.
I know, hi Weird! Good evening!
僕は猿だ。そしてもう一人の猿に名乗り出てもらいたい。
待ちなさいな、ヤス君。加護は大事にせんと。
You discovered a new route home. Oh! Good job, though. Gotta do some stuff for going to bed. Have a nice stream rest of your evening. Ah, thank you. Thank you for the lurk.
いや、タイバ、猿に限っては
Good evening.
意味ないんだよ。
I'm good.
はるちゃん、ついてきてる？
I'm good.
ごめん。わかんない。
猿は2人いるけど、特別な力はない。猿であるという特性だけだ。だから狼にとって大きな脅威じゃない。むしろ明かした方が容疑者を2人減らすことができて選びやすい。
そっか。ただの人間で安全。
さあ、名乗り出てください。
This was a trap. The monkeys knew who the other monkey was. He didn't have to ask them to name themselves, he could just point them out. He also emphasized that being a monkey meant you were no longer suspect. He wanted to set a trap for any wolves who didn't have a good grasp of the situation. If a wolf tried to pretend to be a monkey, Yasunaga-kun and the other monkey would point it out, leading to the faker being hanged. Even if it didn't work, like he said, exposing the monkeys was a good way to get rid of two suspects. Everyone who knew how the monkey worked would understand this, but as things were, it wasn't unlikely that the wolf would fall for it. It was a simple creative idea with no risks involved. And now that he'd come out as a monkey, he was confirmed to be human. That made me more relieved than anyone else here. This meant that he, the one who had a flawless victory as a wolf last loop, wouldn't be an enemy this time. I already knew that the Guardian assignments were completely different than last time, but it was still a nice start. However, that idea was quickly flipped around.
勝手な真似してんじゃねえ。
勝手ですって。
猿が名乗ればいいだ。今、ヤスの意見に納得できたやつ、おるか。
The only ones who raised their hands were Chikamochi Kamoshida, Kyonosuke Nosato, Chiemi Serizawa, Hisako Mami, and Haru Makishima, who was kinda timid about it. Yasunaga-kun included those 6 people, a minority in the 15 here.
誰も分かってねえ時に勝手な真似して、分かってねえ間にもっともらう。そいつは狼の手だ。
Everyone suddenly stared at Yasunaga-kun with pointed glares.
待てよ、ヤスさん。それじゃ、ヤスナガが狼だって言うのか。
ヤスの言っとることは間違っちゃねえ。猿は語れんからな。ヤスは狼じゃねえ。猿だ。じゃが説明もなく動くな。他のもんはてめえほど分かりがよくねえ。
改めて説明しましょ
う。
Damn it. Yasunaga-kun then borrowed Mochi's help to thoroughly demonstrate how 2 groups of monkeys would work. He showed how easy it would be to find out that Mochi, who was playing the part of the wolf, was a faker.
とまあこういう感じで猿の真似してもすぐバレるからやんない。
Let's get the bulb. Yeah.
嘘つきはくくられちゃうよ。
なるほど。今度こそ分かったわ。
今のでも分からない人いますか？
This time no one raised their hands.
おじいさんとちっちゃい子はここから外せないんでしょうか？
無理よ。
Kanzo-san shot her suggestion down, and since no one came to support her, she quickly gave up. Her words were very reasonable. The feast, however, wasn't. Even if some people didn't understand their own roles, the wolves had to die or there would be no future for the humans. That was the feast of the Yomi Purge. If they had guardians, their powers might be wasted, and if they were wolves, they had to be killed. I was pretty sure that the people of Yasumisa at least were certain that that was how it would go. No one said anything, which meant that... That was a natural conclusion. However... What?
親さん、猿のカゴあった。うん。そうか、そいつは安心だ。
カンちゃんが人じゃったか。
Damn it.
それはなんとも頼もしいね。
They seemed genuinely relieved. You could tell by the sighs and whispers. It was true that it was good he wasn't a wolf. If he was and continued to take charge of the feast like he was, he could have probably killed everyone even more easily than Yasunaga.
なぜ名乗り出なかったんですか?
They're both wolves and bluffing? That would be fucked up. Also, it wouldn't make sense. Unless, you know, the real monkeys would be the old man who's not speaking up and the small girl. Because everyone else, I don't think, would keep it hidden at this point. If you have two people, like if you're a monkey and you have two people who are pretending to be someone you are, However, not everything about this was perfect. Yasunaga-kun had forced Kanzo-san to reveal his guardian against his will, which was probably his way of taking the lead. One of them knew how to use his guardian's power, the other didn't. Revealing that made Yasunaga-kun more reliable. However... You don't trust some people here not to be scared into revealing their monkey. Doesn't know what to do even if she's one. I mean, she just got it explained to her. I don't think they're pretending to be monkeys. I think they are the monkeys for real. Also, thank you for the hydro time, Weird. Yasunaga-kun's first step went over the heads of most of those present, and Kanzo-san had used that against him. He had the makings of a leader, and by scolding Yasunaga-kun for his hastiness, he made it clear what the chain of command was here. As a result, Kanzo-san's control of the situation was stronger than before. That also meant that Yasunaga-kun's plan to help me was negated, leaving me in the same danger as before. I had to act now. I went and asked Kanzo-san. Talking out of turn here would just make me look like the bad guy. I watched everyone's reactions. They just made a little bit of noise. You get voted off and hanged immediately. My mouth will get me so much trouble. Oh, what if he's a monkey and a snake? Well, I'm a human. No, bro. If I was in this situation, I would have a lot of trouble, actually. I don't speak a lick of Japanese. I don't know what these people are saying. No, but for real, I don't think I would survive in situations like these. I thought the same when I was playing stuff like Danganronpa as well. I was like, yeah, no.
なるほど。外部者である久子さんやメイコちゃんには伝わってない可能性があるわけですね。
メイコには言って聞かせてありますので。確認。
OK です。じゃあ、間宮さんは？
見てないわ。何なのそれ？
つまり間宮さんは自分で気づいていない加護者である可能性がある。ちなみに宴は一旦中断できませんか？くくるもんを決めるまでは。
Y'all don't look at your stomach when you wake up.
なるほど。では間宮さんは
Like, I don't know, when you're changing clothes, wouldn't you look at your stomach?
くくるべきではない。そうなり、そして僕がカゴ持ちであればやはりくくれないが、そうでなければくくろう。そう思って朝、僕に聞きましたね。
腹。
は？
使いのカゴは腹に出。
そしてどうやら僕にカゴがなさそうなことを確信し、くくることを持ちかけた。そうですね。
Surprisingly, Kanzo-san grinned.
ようしたと頭が回るな。
肝臓じいちゃん、ひどすぎない？
Not sure if most people here actually change clothes. Yeah, that's true, I guess. She probably slept in the same clothes she's wearing right now because she wouldn't have brought any with her since she wasn't planning on staying here during the night.
ちえみちゃん、まあいいよ。立場上そうなるのが自然なのは理解した。僕は人の一員として生き残るために嘘をつこうとは思いませんが、その一日を使って人を勝利させるためできることを考え、情報を用意したい。
You don't know how you'd start reacting if Monokuma didn't get caught immediately.
そして明日、情報を皆さんに伝える。それでダメなら、僕を作ってくれて結構です。
I didn't mention that I had a guardian or whether the info I would present was based around guardian powers or simple strategy. I was weasel wording like mad. However, it was important to express some sort of self-sacrificial spirit in this situation. The effect was the same as when Shiemi did it. Not everyone here agreed that someone should die for the others, but this was a situation where everyone's lives were in danger, and here was showing acceptance of my position. Everyone here could tell it wasn't something a wolf would do. The wolves were more likely to hide among the silent ones, not the ones who told the others to kill them. Red Clove's Hotter is like the most unfortunate style. If you got a guardian in Nanda's presence, he'd be outed instantly. Yeah, we can see his stomach at all times. Random people can't figure out shit. On one hand, I really wanted to replay Danganronpa. On the other hand, I feel like I've fallen out of touch with the franchise. Like, I feel like I've gotten too old to enjoy it. If that makes sense. No one objected. Also, the games are really fucking long if I try to replay them. I was in for a hell of a time on tomorrow's feast. However, the day I'd bought should have been enough to open up a path for me. You enjoyed the anime? Oh, I only watched the anime for the future thingy. Yeah, sequel and part 3. Not the one that covered the first game, but the other one. Yoshitsugu couldn't complain a bit, but then fell silent. He probably understood his point.
なんじゃ、野里の。
このままでは拉致が開きますまい。多数決によって一人選ぶしかないのではないかな。
Hi TK, good evening.
あ、冗談じゃねえ。そんないい加減な方法で選べるか。
いい加減ではない。
Interesting. So Nosato is coming up with the same point as last time. The popularity vote.
ちゃんと話し合って全員一致で決めるべきだろうが。
匠兄ちゃん、気持ちはわかるけど。
でもそんな多数決で簡単に人を殺してしまうなんて。
兄ちゃん、どう思うの？
僕も野里さんに賛成です。
安くんもかよ。
Everyone was stunned that they'd accepted Kiyonosuke-shi's proposal. But eventually everyone agreed to it. They must have understood that this was how it had to go. There was a place for storage deep inside the hall. That was probably where the sake and cup were kept. The inkstone case they kept there had fresh paper inside, and by Kanzo-san's command, Dikaku-san began writing down what she had to.
なんでしょう。
お酒や文具が準備してあるということは、こうなることが何者かによって想定されている。
I don't know what you mean.
ですね。藩士だって何十年も前の古いものとは思えませんし。
だったらやっぱりこれは人間が仕組んだ茶番ってことじゃないの？
Yeah.
この建物は信内権現の社です。 年に2度の山祭りの時に上藤吉の4家から奉納を受けます。たくさんのおみきに書き物道具に荒縄の束に
Isn't that convenient?
草刈り鎌、大昔から変わらぬ品目と聞いております。
つまりこれは今回だけのために用意されたものじゃないけれど、長者4家はこれが実際に使われるということは知っていたということになるわね。
私は知らんぞ。
私も樋口に嫁入りして1年近くはいたけれど、そんな話は。実はそういう事情があってね。
そうだったんですね。
まあ僕も一瞬そういう感じだったけど聞いたことないな。
You were married into the family?
お前には伝えんだろう。たとえ
No,
秘密
I know
があ
what
った
he
ところ
means.
で。
He was kicked from the
おっ
family.
ちゃんに言われたくないな。
結構複雑なんだな。
You know when you trust his Rikako because you're going to assume that she moves as slowly as she speaks? No. Mm-mm. I don't trust her. I don't trust her because she has red eyes, actually. I don't trust the whole corner of girls on the right here, actually. I don't trust... I mean, Shiemi died last time, sure, but I don't trust Rikako-san. I definitely don't trust the little girl because she's a little girl. It's like, oh no, she's just a child. Whatever could she do? And Haru-chan is a... She was on the wolf side last time, despite being a human, so if she actually turns out to be a wolf this time around, we would be especially fucked, because she is always acting like her hat has already fallen off. She always acts like a chicken with his hat cut off. Like running around the entire time, but she... You can't trust children! Yeah!
やんのか。
よし、ちった頭。
匠にいいのかよ。腰抜け。
おやさん。しかしよしの。
I'm gonna try to make it through this scene for tonight, and then we're gonna see how far along we are.
ことを知りながら、効能とか言って善人面してたわけだ。上松、本当に何も知らねえのか。いっそ言った方が俺らも納得できんぞ。
私はただ予感がしただけです。神様の蘇りが近いと。
Sudden loud noises. They were caused by Chiemi and Haru-chan. Oh yeah, she doesn't really like the mention of God, does she? Oh. What? The sudden burst of happenings was too much for me to keep up with. Harumakashima suddenly started laughing out loud. Kanzushi's face paled right before he ran over to her. Everyone else just stared at them, dumbfounded. Oh. Oh, what's happening this time? Excuse me? Menacing and pushing everyone away, Kanzo-san embraced Haru-chan tight. I had no idea what was happening. God was sort of like a keyword. No idea why, but the last time it had a profound effect on Chiemi. It worked on Haru-chan too? It actually happened before. Was it different from the Okami-sama and Shinai-sama? Okami, wolf. Come to think of it, in addition to wolf, Okami could also mean great god. Was that significant?
やめろ。
匠さん、乱暴はやめて。
ナムシない大権限。ナムシない大
Man, things were getting out of hand. Still, Haruchan eventually calmed down and, albeit still delirious, began talking normally.
私何
Huh?
貧血倒れた
We hang everyone at last. We only get to hang one person. That's the problem. We had too many people at love.
おじいちゃん
By the way, Chiemi too had long since recovered, and she was now acting like nothing had happened. Why were they so ready to accept the feast itself when they freaked out like normal people over their own family and fellow villagers acting so weird? I could understand being scared of monsters. And curses too, for that matter, but... They also had the insanity to hang their own mothers and accept being hanged by the ones they loved. It was something straight out of hell. Just how many times would I have to see this kind of thing before I understood it all? Hang everyone and then flee? The climax was drawing near. Extracurricular hanging. Hikaku-san had written a list of all the people participating in the Feast of the Yomi Perch. The penmanship was nice and the order was proper. It felt kinda like a petition or something. I like that we're getting a basically free first day for us. That's good. Oh.
まあそうでしょうな。先ほどの彼らの主張をどう思うか、各々が判断し。
おっちゃん、はるちゃんのじっちゃんの金魚の糞になったのか。
私は正しいと思うことをするまでだ。さあ、始めていただこうか。
今から殺す人を選ぶのにどんなテンションなんだか。
狼様は
狼様は
I don't think she's gonna survive this round either. Like, I mean, yes, this first day, sure, but I don't think she's... Hisaka-san was very normal. I like that. However, I didn't think it would help her survive for long. I had no idea if he understood the situation, but he did point at someone. Specifically, me. No.
Rikako-san, 彼に一票を。
はい。やっぱりおかしいわよ。こんないい加減な決定権を全員が持ってるなんて。
わからんなら黙っとけ。
何よ。じゃあ説明してくださいよ。
間宮さん、僕らは全員一票を持たなきゃならないんです。なぜなら、票の剥奪権が存在すれば、狼に悪用されかねないから。何らかの理由をつけて投票権を奪えるなら、いくらでも暗躍の余地が出るし、そもそも多分あなたに不利に働きます。
よそ者に投票権を持たせたくないって考えの人いっぱいいるだろうしね。
Chimi grumbled while some others gave disgruntled frowns.
あなたには申し訳ない話ですが、僕らは安水を異変から守るために命を懸けることを避けられない。あなたは生き残りたいでしょうが、それは狼の態度でもある。人ならばくくられることを拒んではならないんですよ。もしあなた
これ終わったらすぐに見るわよ。
結構。ではお次。
わしはてめえに入れる。上松の。
So that was his choice, huh?
理由を伺っても。
特にね。
特に不思議はないでしょう。肝臓さんは現時点ではみんな等しく怪しいと思っていて。
Can you guys stop trying to reason why you want someone hanged? Just get on with it.
不妻子さんと間宮さん。
Like genuinely get on with it.
安水のものにとって一番くくりやすいのが上松さんかあなたです。
So why are you explaining someone else's reasoning, my guy?
どいつもこいつも。
わかりました。票はお受けします。
やれやれ。次、ばあちゃんだぜ。
あたしはようわからんが、カンちゃんがあの子らに入れんのなら、
Oh.
それに従おうかね。それで、カンちゃんとヤスくんも。
The pacing is a thing, yeah.
ないんだわよね。
Yeah, like.
そう信じるのは妥当でしょうな。
じゃあ、
Oh, it's really drawn out.
入れようかね。
は？なんでだよクソババ。
そうやって乱暴にしてお母さんの言うことも聞かんと汚れを呼び込んだんじゃないんかね。
If you were stuck in a loop and knew it, you'd probably be like, yeah, I'm the wolf, hang me, so you could get back from all those crazy people. I mean, it's only his first big loop. Like, if we're not counting the small bad endings in between, because they're not like actively mentioned except for the very first one where he went out and ran into the wolf. So I guess his mentality isn't broken enough yet. Like I feel like if this was his what, like 5th, 10th, 100th run and he would still be getting anywhere, maybe then he'd start to slowly lose his mind or something. But technically it's only our like second big try.
さて、名庫に入れる。
村様。
この時期にこうやってやってきて身元もわからねえってやっぱり怪しいぜ。
でもこんなちっちゃな子を。
So?
わかってるが、じゃあどうすんだ。もし本当にこいつが狼なら。
It seemed like he had a point at first glance, but
言っておくが、化け物を認めるわけじゃねえ。ただ、そういうルールに従わないと死ぬ状況はマジかもしれん。心配するな。くくるときには俺だけでやる。以上。次、香織さんだ。
安永、危険はできないのかしら。
母さん、それは良くない。人はこの場しか狼に対抗する手段を持たないんだ。わざわざ危険しようとする人は狼に組みするものと見られても仕方がない。
big point is somewhere between 3 and 8. No! Don't remind me of the Endless 8.
あなたは誰にするつもり？
Oh, that was
事前に宣言してもいいものですか？
Haruhi Suzumiya. The Haruhi Suzumiya anime is one of the only few anime that I actually own on DVD. Both seasons. The other anime I own on DVD, the entirety of the anime, is K-On! Do you know how much it hurts my soul that I spent so much money on a DVD set that gave me the Endless 8, which are basically the same episode over and 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 over. It's so stupid.
僕は野里さんに入れるつもりです。
I mean, I know that they like literally went out and animated it over and over as well. It's not like they just reused the episode, but it's still such a stupid thing. Still mad about it.
そして長者が何かしら知っているという点においては、清之助さん、あなたは同様のことが
Me too, I watched them all.
言えますが、彼女は3年前から休みずに住んでいて、あなたはついこの前に戻ってきた。今回のことを知っているかもしれないと疑う理由はなくは
なるほど。安水の上藤吉への恨みは核も骨髄に達しているというわけだな。
それなら私も野里さんに。
そうなるでしょうな。流れ的には私をくくっても一日無駄にするだけだ。
Sure.
私の番か。私は新入りの彼に1票入れるとしよう。
Seriously?
おっちゃん、じいちゃんの金魚の糞やめたのか。
誰もそんなもの最初からやってないがね。私は彼の言動が
Well, we're not a wolf. We're not lying about that.
10割の自信があるわけではないが、それでもこの場で唯一怪しいと言えるのは生き残りたい理由説明が弱かった彼だ。
誰だって生き残りたいでしょうが。
まだ来られて1日の春秋様にそこまでお求めになるのは国というものでは。
何とでも言えばよろしい。私からは以上だ。
Sure. Unfortunately for me, he did have a point.
僕はもう言った。次、モッチ。
おっちゃんに1票。
He knows you're on a wolf, he just called you a weasel. Ooh!
だって こっから先はりっちゃんかおっちゃんに票が入りそうなんだよね。りっちゃん女の子だしそしたらおっちゃん頑張れよって思ってさ。
近持様、
リカ子さんを守ることに依存はないが
Just take it.
それとこれとは
Shut the
別の
fuck
話
up.
ではないかね。
じゃおっちゃんに入れそうな筆頭ヨッシーの番。
植松に1票。
あら、
俺はそこのバカ病態よりこっちの女の方が怪しいと思うからこっちに入れる。まあ本当はどっかのクソババアに入れてえところだけどよ、確実に一人やるのが大事だろ今よ。次知恵ねえもそうしろよ。
私よし君に投票する。
Oh.
はあ、待てよ、なんでそんな。はあ、
よし君、もし君が狼じゃないならそうやってあんまり目上の人たちばっかりにしない方。狼が上藤吉の人やお年寄りばっかだって保証はないんだよ。野里さんの言ってることには9割反対だけどこれだけは賛成する。君じゃなくてほしいけど私の1票は君に冷静になってもらうために使うね。
That's surprising.
そんなんありかよ。
義継、どうかおとなしくして。皆様もどうか。
大丈夫だって。よし君はそうそう死なないよ。次はるちゃん。
そこのなんとかさんに。
She pointed at me.
まあ仕方ないね。怪しく見えるのは。
Despite two people saying they're not gonna vote for the outsiders, we're getting a few votes.
春明様、
リカ子さんの番だよ。
私は
Huh?
私自身に投票いたします。
え？
おやさん、ありか。
禁じられてはおるまい。
What?
会えば
Why?
聞いたこともありませんがね。まあ禁じちゃないかね。
リカ子さん、私があんなこと言ったからってそんな無理しなくてもいいってば。
いいえ、私はさっきの芹沢様の
No, but that would no.
素晴らしい。
I mean, she's not a wolf. I get. Would you vote for yourself?
私のこの場の投票先に迷ったらどうか幼すぎるこの子には入れ
We
ないで
have one vote for Meiko. Calm down. What was I supposed to do with this?
メイコ、どなたか一人。
お姉ちゃん、
てめガキ。
お姉ちゃんに意地悪しちゃダメ。
次春明さんだよ。
Kinosuke, Yoshitsugu-kun, Rikaku-san, and I all had 3 votes each, while Meiko-chan had just 1.
最大得票者が複数人いたら
We vote
決選
again.
投票ですか？
うん。それらを除いた他のもんで投票する。
Well. The suspects who'd go up to the next round would lose their right to vote, huh? That was something. But if that was how it worked
そ
then...
の決選投票で票が完全に割れてしまったら？
それが皆の意なら誰もくくられん。
That was interesting. They go for a final vote by limiting the suspects and giving the voting right only to the rest. And if there were several in the limited group who received majority votes, too, they could vote again, but if there was a completely perfect split among them all, then they couldn't cut the numbers down again, nor return back to square one, making it impossible to continue the voting. This was actually quite a delicate situation. The ones in the lead were Kyonosuke, Yoshitsugu, Nikaku-san, and me, with Meiko behind us with just 1 vote. Normally thinking I could vote for one of the other 3 to make sure I survived, then even if Mamiya-san picked me, I wouldn't die right away. There'd only be a final vote, which was dangerous in its own right. However, I didn't feel like voting for Yoshitsugu-kun. His votes were mostly just a punishment for being a brat, so actually killing him would shock everyone present. There was also Kaori-san, who would most likely make a mess of the whole feast again later on. I wanted to avoid that. Then, was I to vote for Kyonosuke or Rikaku-san? The former seemed like the better choice. He'd voted for me, and he'd probably prefer to die rather than see Rikaku-san hanged. However, he really didn't feel like a wolf to me. Could I really kill him off just because the village hads like him were so resented here?
間宮さん、どうするつもりですか？
聞いてどうするつもり？
正直、この状況で誰かを選ぶ
You
とい
could
うこ
both
と
vote
自体
for
は
Meiko, and then
リ
we'd
スクじゃ
have
ない
4
かと思って
people with the same amount of
意見を
votes for
聞き
them.
たいだけです。
I don't know what we gain from doing that though, because then... Wait. We'd have a bunch of people who could still vote.
私は殺人を防ぐわ。
Oh!
可能ならね。
Did she also see it? Did she notice the unlikely but possible way of preventing everyone's lynching?
それは狼を利する行為ですよ。
そんなの知ったことじゃない。ここは日本よ。法治国家よ。あなた方がこうやって犯罪行為を容認するつもりなら、私は自分の良識に従ってそれを止めるわよ。
Her words were just too reasonable.
ぶっちゃけ皆さんの中でも少なくない人がこの展開を狙ってと出ないとこんなに作為的に平らに票がばらけるはずないんじゃないかと。その状態で人死にを出すことは場の相違に果たして沿ってるのでしょうか。まあ答えはもらえないですよね。
I had to think this through. In most situations, hanging someone was the way to make progress. However, I still had another option, the snake's power. If I didn't use it at least once, there'd be no point in me having it. First and foremost, I had to make it through this day. However, this was a situation without any clear enemies. If you picked someone arbitrarily, wouldn't it be bad for us in the long run? I couldn't help questioning that course of action. Well, there was no point in lying to myself. Honestly, I just really wanted to exploit this loophole in the rules.
悩むならば、メイコではなく、私を。
Ikaku-san went and emphasized that. She really didn't have to worry though. Meiko wouldn't die no matter what happened. Even if the remaining 2 votes went to her, she'd just become another option in the final vote, and the candidates would either be me or one of the village hats. Ikaku-san would become a good dumping ground for votes. After all, she voted for herself and suggested that others do the same. She was by far the closest one to death. What she did was pretty much suicide. Did she have suicidal tendencies or something? She did seem a bit dim in certain ways, but not completely simple and idiotic. Huh?
悩むならば、メイコではなく、私を。
Why the emphasis and why then? Oh, yeah, I guess I couldn't kill Ikaku-san or Meiko after all. That left me with only one answer.
僕はメイコに投票します。
Mamiya-san voted for it too, meaning we had 5 people with 3 votes on them. Wait, 5 people? We would then start a final vote centered around them. Wait, what? There were 15 people here. According to the rules Kanzo-san described, the 5 candidates would lose their votes, so only 10 would get to vote. That made for a very special situation. It was the key to creating a very unlikely situation where no one died. 5 people? Who else got 3 votes? Meiko has 3, Rikako has 3, Yoshitsugu has 3. Who else got 3 votes? By the time my turn came, there were 4 people with 3 votes. If Mamiya-san gave the votes off to someone else, the final vote would only have 4 options and 11 voters. There was no way to divide them equally. Someone would have more votes and we'd certainly have a hanging on our hands. It'd be fine if the split turned out to be something like 2-3-3-3, resulting in a final vote, assuming the odd one who got 2 got their vote back. But if it was something like 1-3-4-4, and those who got 4 would be voted on again, you'd either have 13 or 11 voters, an odd number regardless. However, there were 5 suspects and 10 voters now. If the votes were split evenly at 2-2-2-2, the voting would be cancelled and no one would be lynched today. Mamiya-san had realized this too. That was why she hadn't hesitated to vote for Meiko. That left us with another problem though. After all, the sacrifice was as good as decided. Crap, Kanzo-san was going for it.
それでも
待って、ちゃんと票を取り直して。
Chimi realized it and acted on it.
そうだ、当然だ。でないと私が。リカコさん、決定できませんか。
Place your bets now, whether we're going to finish this before it's another full hour or not. Exactly. He realized it too, and looking at the results just confirmed it. Yeah, I'm not reading all that. Exactly. As things were, I, Yoshitsugu-kun, and Meiko would have 2 votes. Ikaku-san would have 1, and Kyunosuke would come out on top with 3 votes. Of course, there wouldn't be any problems if the results changed, but... They put too many characters into this. I mean, last time around we had so many abnormal deaths happening that people just died really quickly, but this time... What if she did? Chimi fell silent. She had no rebuttal. The purpose of the final vote was to cut off the minority, those who had the votes, and let the majority's votes do the talking. That was why it was impossible to select anyone when the votes were split perfectly and there were no minorities or majorities. However, here in Yasumizu, where the suspects lost the right to vote, things were a bit different. By simply removing the right to vote, you already had a difference in votes, so it wasn't necessary to vote again, as the minority that should have done that didn't exist. The 10 who could still vote could vote for the same people, so why wouldn't they? We have the same amount of people here as in a Danganronpa game, but this feels way, like, more dragged out. Does that make sense? Like, yes, it's the exact same thing in Danganronpa, but, you know, Danganronpa had a bit of a setup time. I won't argue with that. Like, the first time you get to meet everyone, you get to know everyone, you get thrown into the game, but then it's like, boom, first person death, what the fuck? Writing anything with voting, people explain the reasons going to take a while for someone to read through. Yeah. Those words rang powerfully in the ears of Yasumisa's inhabitants. People had to put their lives on a line for the humans' sake. This isolated society considered that the right thing to do, and voting again was a sin. Who would insist on committing that sin? Especially among the 3 who voted for Kiyonosuke no Satoshi. Which one of them could change their minds and vote for Rikaku Uematsu? There were actually only 2 ways left. Would Mochi change his mind or not?
まあ、そうだな。こんなんめったにないだろうしな。よし、りっちゃんに変えるぞ。
近持ち。
やめろ、おやさん。
Danganronpa didn't have people talking around in loops. Kanzumaki Shimeshi stood up and clenched his fist, but Takumi-san went after him just in time to stop him.
知ってるだろ。近持ちはこういうやつだ。
それで狼を利するなら、人の裏切り者よ。
それもわかる。わかるがよ。
Danganronpa had this many characters for a 20 to 40 hour VN. Yeah, he has multiple roles with all the padding, yeah.
わかるだろ、おやっさんも。なあ。
Danganronpa has a lot of text, but the biggest difference I think is just the way the discussions take place in Danganronpa. Because they're pretty fast paced actually, because everyone starts throwing around accusations and you actively have to shoot those down, like as a gameplay mechanic. If you read that, technically the first time I experienced Danganronpa before actually playing it for myself, I did read that one translation forum, a part of it at least. If you only read all of that, I think it would feel the exact same as this. Because there's no change up there. When you're actually playing Danganronpa, you have to shoot down the arguments that the people make to get your point across. Which gets really fucking stressful, I'll tell you that much. Everyone here was gloomy and tired. They wanted to end this and leave as soon as possible. Yeah, they wanted to leave as soon as possible. Me too. I would also like to leave. I'm once again going overtime, but it's okay, I do have the time. But like, I want to finish this section, please.
私はじゃが、カンちゃん、仕方がないわよ。みんなで決めた方法でくくるもんを決めるのが。
わかっとる。後悔しても知らんぞ、てめえら。
Feeling slightly guilty, everyone silently listened to Kanzo-san's words of condemnation. The first day's feast had ended. You just gotta complain about something enough times. The first day's feast had ended and had actually contributed to the group not killing anyone, something I was completely against last time. Kanzo-san left the hall in a deafening silence. After he was gone, everyone else slowly stood up and left. They all wore varied expressions of relief.
久石さん、後で話があります。わかった。
Yeah, this time around, we're really just left in the dark. Like, we just find dead people's bodies. Hearing that as I left was actually kind of scary. Oh? So many people want to talk to us. Wow.
ちょっと面がいいからって調子乗ってんじゃねえぞ。
Oh, you think I have a pretty face? Ah?
今のそういうのなのか？
じゃあ僕とも話そう。
定着する前に言っておくけど、その呼び名はやめてくれ。
俺とも話すか？
それでまたいたずらする気でしょ
う。何よこの流れ。
あんまこそこそ話は
It's not a secret meeting, it's everyone's coming up to me. The one to interrupt the weird event was
いく
Takumi-san.
ら霧に巻かれてもこんな狭いところだ。小声であっても必ず誰かが聞いてるし、中身は半日で広まる。バレたらまずい話はしない方
Yeah,
がい
I
い
think
ぞ。
it's gonna start rolling hopefully sometime
う。
soon.
ご忠
But
告感謝します。
as much as I'm enjoying the game more than I did at the very beginning, it does have pacing issues. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry. If I play a game for 4 hours and it doesn't feel like there's anything happening, like actually getting somewhere. That was true. Even if someone did share a secret with another person, there was no guarantee it'd be kept. Plus, keeping secrets would sow distrust, and meetings with the opposite gender could also spark jealousy. I didn't want anyone to spend the next feast talking about how I was a wolf having secret meetings or something. Better to discuss things out in the open where there would be witnesses.
さあ、夫妻さん。私たちはお昼の準備をしなきゃ。包丁使える？
I guess.
人並みには。
Somewhat. And so it was time for food? No. So it was time to stop. Jesus Christ. Where are we at anyway, according to the... Wow. Oh my god. Holy shit, okay. The beginning, and this is where we're at right now. Feast, feast, feast. Meeting adjourned, kind of. Okay. That being said, the one on the right here, the path that is still closed off this time, is probably the one where we exchange places with the journalist. I forgot his name. The journalist guy. Because that is closed off behind a key. Behind key number 13. And we haven't even hit the double digits for keys yet. And I'm just going to assume we get the keys kind of in a specific order. Oh man. Interesting, interesting. Right? Oh, we can. Oh! Oh, yeah. Oh my god. 20 keys. All right. Well, that's gonna take a while. That's for sure. Not bad, not bad. That is a lot of keys. I mean, yeah, granted, it is not a short game. It's not a short game, but the pacing could be a little better, not gonna lie. But we're gonna keep going. This is fine. Oh, thank you for the posture check, Barry. Oh, that's a weak posture check. I'm sorry. There we go. And thank you for the pat. Well, at least we managed to actually get started with our second feast. For a while there, I really wasn't sure we would ever actually get on with it. This is fine. This is fine. That's gonna be it for tonight. Gonna continue this game next week. I'll post the schedule in a bit as soon as I make it. Because I'm still not sure what to play next Saturday. Like I said, I'll be putting Ni no Kuni on hold for now. So we're gonna continue playing this game on Wednesday. And maybe I'll stream if I do find the time tomorrow, because technically I should have the time, but I'm not sure. I'll keep to the usual schedule. For sure. And then we'll see. Yeah, Friday Atelier Shelley, which I think we should be able to finish. We're already in the second to last chapter. We just have a bunch of events left to do. Maybe try to make some better equipment and hopefully get to fight our big boss at the end. And we'll find something new to do on Saturday as soon as I know what. Alrighty, bye. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Wish all of you a very, very good night. It was always nice catching stream and hanging out. Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. I'm gonna send you guys over to Hess, who is playing Resident Evil 0. Not that I know much about Resident Evil, but Hess playing those games is always a fun thing. So I'm gonna send you guys over, but before I do that, I have to click 500 buttons. Up. There we go. Let me set up the raid. And give you the right message. Here you go. Thank you so much for coming by tonight. Hope you'll get some good rest. I'll see you next week. Good night. And bye-bye. Bye-bye.